What is going on, everybody? I'll wait for a response. Nobody's saying it. All right, how y'all doing? This is Brian Mazik, aka Unique Mazik. I am the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and I have proof. And I am joined by somebody who works kind of hard too, but just not doing exactly what I do. How you doing, Nelson?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm enjoying the early slander. You know what I mean? This is
That
great.
wasn't slander. I said he works really hard. Just he
No,
don't,
but
he
not
don't
like you.
do the
You
same.
know what's funny?
No,
You know why
I,
you work
I
so hard?
mean,
I'm
I
gonna tell.
mean,
No, let me tell the people why you work so hard. I
why?
was give you a compliment because even after
Right,
I brought up a Derrick Rose topic in our
right,
show, you
right,
still had to go back to your own channel
right.
and do it again.
Yep. Yeah.
Sad. That's why you work so hard.
I did
That's why you
because
work so hard.
I do double work. I've been told that
It's
before.
the Chicago bias that is keeping you
Well,
crazy.
honestly, no, Nelson, I'm gonna tell you the honest God truth. I have several problems. I have several, and but I embrace it. I know these things exist. So, see, you can only be hurt by things you don't know. You don't know. See, I know what they are. So that's how I trick people because I know.
I was just wondering, what was your thought process when you were on your channel? Like, I know I spent 25 minutes talking about what Derrick Rose is going to do, but dang it, I need another 40. What was you
Because
thinking?
here's the thing, sometimes see, people hard. People don't ever, you gotta say that you gotta say things to
Dang it,
people a
I
lot of times, you gotta say things to people a lot of times for them to get it. So sometimes it's not that people not on the same channel as you and whatever. So you gotta, you know how it is. You know how it is.
you just don't want a fair and balanced conversation. That's okay. We're gonna have a fair
I,
and
I'm
balanced conversation tonight.
I'm gonna tweet the link out. Why don't you tell people what you've been doing this week or whatever, you know.
I
Uh,
can't do that. All of my work that I'm working on is classified.
Well, you don't have to say specifically. You can say I drew a picture of
Okay.
a man.
I've been doing a lot of character designs,
Okay,
and
thanks.
for if there's any art nerds out there or music nerds out there, what I've been discovering this week is that my study of color theory and music theory are growing at the same time because they're basically the same philosophy. They're the same study, and that's been what I've been about this week for the most part. I've been playing a little more Destiny, a little more PvP, getting in them streets.
Yeah, I see. I don't think that was that hard, Nelson. I think you made that so much more difficult than it had to
What you
be.
been up to, Brian?
Again, you know what? My wife knows that I hate it when people hurry me along, and because she do it all the time. She do it on purpose. She do it on purpose.
If a lot of people are doing that to you,
No, it
is
ain't a
the
lot.
problem
It's not
them?
a lot. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. It's
Just
just
the ones who know you well?
that's why it's like people they don't reach a certain height level. That especially she do. She little, so she always do that. I be talking and I say something and she go, yeah. About tomorrow. I'm like, you gonna flip the calendar day on me in the middle of what I'm saying? That's what's gonna happen. I'm like, okay, I see how it is now, but yeah, that bothers me. So I've threatened her with divorce several times, but I don't think she believes. It's okay. It's gonna work out either way. I know it is. So I am going to let's get into something here. I appreciate everybody that's coming through. 1989, Mook Allen, Sean Singletary. Hey, Sean, you the only one here that seems to like it when we start talking about people fighting for sport. So hey, I got you. We gonna talk about it. We trying to convert everybody over to MMA fans.
Yeah, we stubborn. We gonna keep doing it
I'm a,
till y'all like it.
we gonna put y'all in a MMA conversation submission hold until you tap out.
Yeah, a metaphorical bulldog. We got Herb Dean on our side.
Yeah, we got Herb D,
See now, if y'all pay attention to the show, all y'all will get that joke.
then you already know, right? See that y'all got to learn how to be. Never mind. Anyway, let's talk about Magic Johnson. Um, you know what Magic Johnson is? Magic Johnson is one of the funniest people who doesn't mean to be funny that I think I've ever seen. Like Magic don't tell any joke
Yeah,
anyway. Like it's just his mannerisms, right? And like so this reference I'm gonna make hasn't aged well, but it still is kind of true. He has a Bill Cosby kind of a quality to like his facial expressions
Mm-hmm.
because he's like, it's like, start talking about some Jello pudding pops, and then he died.
Uh-huh.
He just looks like that all the time. He could be talking about something super serious, and so when he's the only dude I ever seen resign in a comedic way. So
You know why? Because he was conning everybody.
what you mean? What do you mean?
Because Magic Johnson clearly went out with an agenda to win the conversation. That's what you do when you don't tell Jeannie, when you get out in front of it, when you fill it up with all this emotional stuff. She's my sister. I love this organization. I just want to be happy. I just want to be me. I want to be free. I really just want to help the young guys. It's all a con job. I mean, I'm not saying any of that stuff is not true. That stuff may be true, but it's not the whole story. And you're putting forth the stuff that's going to make you look good. And to be fair, he only threw a little bit of shade on the people in the organization, but he still threw that shade.
Yeah, he did. He thought.
You
He
know,
thought.
he didn't have to talk about firing Luke, and he definitely didn't have to talk about backstabbing. So he did all that emotional, glad handing so that he could turn around and be like, and I'm getting backstabbed and I was going to fire Luke, but if they don't fire Luke, let's see how that turns out. Like, I think it worked in the sense that people didn't go after him a whole lot, but it didn't work in the sense that people haven't forgotten the fact that he did a terrible job. They didn't forget that. That was like, oh wow, he's a great Laker. Magic's such a charismatic guy. It'll be good to see him be Magic again. He did a terrible job. What y'all think Rob Pelinka gonna do now?
Well, okay. For me, what I think is that here's the thing: when you ever anybody anybody in the world who has ever had a second job, right? Anybody in the world who's ever had a second job probably is going to understand this. So you got a first job. You got your first job, right? So whatever your first job is, right? You I don't know. You work some I don't know, wherever you work. You put stripes on peppermints. This is what you whatever it is that you do, right? You working, right? And you putting these stripes on the peppermints, and I mean this candy is just, I mean, them lines are straight. You understand? They own there, right? And peppermint tastes so good. And your family is eating on the fact that you put these stripes on this peppermint. Bam, bam, you got it. But then if something comes along and it's either fun to you or it's just one little extra thing you want to do in life, and somebody gives you a job to put some holes in the donuts. So then you got another opportunity to get a second job. You kind of working part time. You putting these holes in these donuts. But then the dude, the manager at the donut shop, starts making life a little stressful for you. And you stick to it for a little while, and then after a while, you go, man, I was feeding my family. Everything was fine. I was happy when I was just putting stripes on peppermints. Now that I start punching holes in these donuts, things have gotten stressful. Magic don't have to put holes in donuts. He doesn't have to. He doesn't need the Lakers. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need them. So when you come to him talking about working hard, you got to put in long hours to be a general manager, all that. He's like, this is not what I wanted. I wanted to do something that was going to be fun. It would be nice to be in charge of the Lakers. But this got to a point where it was just too much effort for what he was. It was too much required for what he was willing to put in. And that's why you like do, and then like this guy's getting on my nerves, she's getting on my nerves, he's getting on my nerves. I don't need this. It was the classic, I don't need this. I don't, y'all, this is my second job, or this is my fourth, fifth source of income. I don't need this. And I really think that that's really what this was about, to be totally honest. It's just, I'm not willing to do everything that I need to quote unquote
Well,
do to make this
just
work.
like all his stories about Love and Genie and all that other stuff. I think that's a part of it. But there's a lot of stories circulating, and these stories are coming from different sources, and they seem to corroborate. And the stories are basically saying that yes, Magic was lazy. Um, no, he didn't put in enough work.
Mhm.
Him and Rob Pelinka don't get along.
Mhm.
Rob Pelinka has a different vision for the franchise. Um, and what we haven't spoken about yet is basically that Kobe and Genie and Luke and Pelinka are all very close in their own way. So everything that, because even though Kobe's not technically working for the organization, if Kobe says something, Genie's gonna listen, right? So
Which
that's what all the reports say.
which is probably a problem, but anyway.
It's not a problem because it doesn't mean she's gonna do what he says. I think if you're a leader, you need to be intelligent enough to hear every side and decide what's the right course of action,
But he don't have a side. He doesn't have an official position.
which makes it even better. Because if you have a highly successful, highly intelligent person who's like, well, this is my opinion, you can go, noted, I have that piece of information and move on. And if he doesn't have a real stake in it, then great, because you know he's not trying to get something from you.
Well, but see, I don't know that we can say that he doesn't have a real stake in it because his boy is the guy he essentially put there. They put Rob Pelinka there to appease Kobe,
No, but he literally doesn't have a stake in it, as in he's
but
not getting a
I
paycheck.
don't think
Everybody else is getting a
he
paycheck.
doesn't have a tangible stake. But I think he could have still an emotional stake, which can still be a motivation and can still drive an initiative or drive. It can still be a
I
driver
don't.
for him.
Well, if your case is that he likes Rob Pelinka, so he's going to make decisions based on him liking Rob Pelinka. That ship has already sailed because Rob Pelinka is already working there. So you
Well,
already know that that's his opinion. It'd be different if that was a secret agenda. If his opinion is I think Rob's vision for the team is good, hire Rob, and then you hire Rob. Nothing about what Kobe feels is going to change about that. So if you want to fire Rob, you already have Kobe's opinion and information about Rob.
what I'm saying is because there is arguably or rumored or reported to be a rift between Pelinka, who is Kobe's guy, and Magic Johnson, they're not getting along. Like you said, my whole point is we're which was very a micro point to begin with, is that why is Jeannie listening to Kobe in this? Like you said, why would you listen to Kobe if I already know what you're gonna say? Rob's your guy.
But
So,
she's not just asking Kobe about Rob related things.
but
There's
you're
a lot.
asking him about Laker related things, and if you're asking him about Laker related things, he's going to ride with Rob. It would seem, according to the narrative that we're talking about right now, he's going to ride with Rob. And then if you're
from
looking at,
from what was discussed, that's not the nature of the talks that they were having. It wasn't everything is Rob versus Magic, and everything is related to that. That is a more recent. That's what it has developed into after all of the things have happened, right? So when they talk about her listening to Kobe, some of that is from months and months and months ago. Some of that is in opinion, his opinion regarding this, his opinion regarding that. But the bottom line is that Magic, because he's made bad decisions. Frankly, we've talked about this all year. He's made some bad calls, and the way he did those calls was also bad, right? So, for instance, just take the D'Angelo Russell Lonzo Ball thing. It's one thing if you say, I want Russell out of the locker room because we want to build a winning culture and we can't have that in the locker room. Most people who've been in the locker room are like, I feel you on that. I get it. Even though we all agreed D'Angelo Russell, it's too bad that he couldn't be in that locker room, right? Okay, no problem. It's another thing entirely when you draft Lonzo Ball, say he's going to be the next me, his name's going to be in the rafters, and then throw D'Angelo Russell under the bus and say he's not a leader. What people have been talking about is how players see that and they don't like that because they see it as this old school guy who does not is not going to respect them.
hmm, I don't know. I don't know if I would 100% agree with that in terms of in the D'Angelo Russell situation, because I think that D'Angelo Russell I think D'Angelo Russell has played his way into good graces with people because of his talent and because of how much
Well,
he
he's
has
also
matured
matured
as
as a
a person.
person.
Right, and I mean, because he grew up as a he grew up. He was a kid. He's still a kid. And I
Even
think
now he's like 23 years old, but he was 18
yeah,
or 19 years old when that happened.
yeah,
19 years old.
like I'm 19, 20 years old when it happened. So but I think that originally when Magic was making those statements and saying and making that decision about Russell, I don't think he was on an island at that point, right?
Well,
And
no,
I
see,
don't
but that's
think
not the point. It's not that he was wrong. Everybody knew that D'Angelo Russell
no,
messed up.
no, I'm addressing what you were saying when you said players don't like that. I don't think most players would have had an issue with him with that at the time, right? But now, if you go back and you look at it and you say, oh, look at the player that D'Angelo Russell has become with Brooklyn. And then you also look at what has happened with the Lakers. And then now, yes, hindsight is 2020. It's easy for everybody to say, yeah, and he shipped D'Angelo Russell off too. But at the time, nobody was saying that. At the time,
No, it
at the
wasn't. It
time,
wasn't that he shipped him off. Nobody criticized it.
or
Most
throwing them
people.
under the bus, or even throwing them under
That's
the
the
bus.
key. No, that
I,
matters though,
I don't
because
think
players, especially these young players, because a lot of these players like D'Angelo Russell,
they
right?
they like and respect him a lot more now than they did then. When that happened, D'Angelo Russell's name was mud, man.
Well,
It was mud.
but the thing is, everybody knew he made a mistake. He didn't deny making a mistake. Everybody also knew he was a kid doing something stupid.
Exactly.
And Magic being the adult in the room, and this is what I said about the Lakers before that happened. I'm like, the real reason D'Angelo Russell had to be moved on is because your locker room situation was so toxic and disorganized that this kind of stupidity happens.
Hmm.
Because this is not something that, if this happened in the Spurs, we will all be shocked to our very core if this happened in a Popovich locker room
Well, you
or
know
even a
what?
Utah locker room.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't
I
actually
totally
because
would. With
because
nothing
there
in the 20 years he's been there, not a single story like this has come out.
well, it depends on how you want to look at it. But Tony Parker and Brent Barry had a problem.
Even that was an off the court issue. That look
But
at that.
that
That
wasn't
was a
off the
situation.
court. They weren't on the court when he recorded this
They,
guy's
no, they were in the
conversation.
lock. They were in the locker room though. That's still under your watch. You talk about something that happened in the bedroom. That's not your purview.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah,
control what happens in the bedroom. In the locker room, literally on real estate that you pay the rent on, yeah, that's your responsibility. There's a hard line.
yeah. I
There's a
don't
hard line
know.
between the locker room and the bedroom. Mizzy, I don't know what kind of locker rooms you've been in,
Well,
but
I guess it depends on what team you're on. But but
but bottom line
I
is
don't think
what.
it's that. I don't think it's that different because I think the picture that you paint is one about culture, and the culture is is something that goes beyond what's happening on the court. The culture is about the way your teammates and the players act and treat each other, and I
No, I'm
think that
saying
that
I'm
goes beyond the
specifying
court.
locker room culture.
But I think, but okay, well, we didn't specify locker room culture at first. You were saying I would just be shocked if something like that happened with the Spurs or with the Jazz. So I
Yeah,
didn't know
in
where
their
you.
locker room,
Okay,
specifically in their locker room.
or in their locker room. Yeah, I mean,
Because those coaches and those GMs and those owners have of same thing with the Pacers. They have a consistent way that they're like, this is how you behave in our locker room, and it was you sort of like it was total tomfoolery, horsing around. It was not a disciplined organization. So it's what you can't stop D'Angelo Russell from making a mistake like that. But what you can do is handle it in a way where they go, he
and,
messed up, but you handle it like a boss.
and you know what though? Were they in the locker room? I don't think they were, bro. And I'm because I'm looking at the video now, and I didn't say anything originally because I wasn't sure, but I'm looking at the video. They look like they're in a hotel room because the Nick Young is laying on a bed, and you can see a lamp next to him and a pillow, and then D'Angelo Russell is on the other side of the room on his bed, and he's just sitting there talking. They're on the road together. And so this did not happen in the locker room. So
This happened
that
in a team hotel.
okay, I think you're reaching now. It didn't
I'm not
happen in a
reaching
locker
because
room.
no,
You're
because what I
expanding. You're
I'll stand
expanding the
corrected on the locker
definition.
room point. No, but my thing about it is, and this was what I was going to say about the Tony Parker thing. The Tony Parker Brent Barry thing was batten down the hatches. This is a personal issue, and they handled it behind closed doors. Magic Johnson came out and threw D'Angelo Russell under the bus. And my thing was the whole thing about it, the same way Magic is exiting was handled like a circus. Like right now, Magic exited. Did Pelinka come out and give a reasonable statement? Did Jeannie come out and give a reasonable statement? Did LeBron come out and give a reasonable statement? No. They sent Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma out there to be like, I see y'all next year.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of unprofessional stuff that's going on in this organization. And Magic Johnson, while he was there, made it worse across the board. And we've been criticizing him for this for the entire time. That's why I'm saying his entire exit was a manipulation. Frankly, as a Lakers fan, I'm glad he's gone because I don't think he did anything good while he was there. Even the acquisition of LeBron James is, by many reports, being credited to Kobe Bryant.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that at
I'm
all.
just I'm telling you reports. I don't
Yeah.
believe anything. I'm
Yeah,
just telling you
yeah,
what
I
the
don't. Yeah,
reports are saying.
I hear that, but I don't believe that. I believe Magic got LeBron there. Now, whether or not we believe that that is a good thing or not is debatable too. But I believe that Magic got LeBron there, and I'm not arguing that Magic did a good job. I don't think Magic did a good job. I don't think. I don't think. I think that Magic I don't think Magic ever truly wanted to be a general manager. I think he wanted to be a figurehead. I think he wanted to be a magnet for big time free agents. And oh, I'm gonna go play there because Magic got on the phone and Magic called. You can even hear it in the thing that he said when he was resigning. He
But
said
going back to go finish.
he said he liked being able to talk to this player, that player. Like so, Ben Simmons came, called him, and Magic liked feeling that feeling of adoration, right? He liked that, right? And he liked these players reaching out to him, and he wanted that same dynamic. He wanted to feel that way. And there's a part of the job, the recruitment aspect of it, that I think he liked, right? He liked the recruitment. He liked the chase of going to get these free agents and deciding which player. He wanted to be a GM the same way fans want to be a GM. You know, we want to sit at home and I want to go out and sign a free agent on 2K and play in my league, right? I want to go out and I want to look through the scout the prospect list and go, I think that kid's got it. You know, I think that's what he wanted to do. But he got out here and the job was had so many more layers to it, and he didn't I don't for whatever reason he didn't realize how restrictive it would be for him in just the way he wanted to exist out here as a Laker guy. And I think that when all of it started to come down, and he started being faced with a lot of failure and a lot of pressure, at the end of the day he made the decision: I am not willing to put in the time and the work necessary
Well,
to
that's again
succeed.
the many reports, and again from various sources.
Mhm.
Um, when I say various sources, I mean there are people that are reporters. There's a lawyer who's very close to the Buss family, who was close to the Lakers organization, who's been just dropping stuff on Twitter. I don't know, and you know, you
No,
got
I saw him.
Woj.
I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, you got Woj, the stuff that he's saying. Woj, very reliable reporter. You got the stuff Stephen A is saying. Again, he tends to be plugged into certain things. And a lot of what they're talking about is you take what you said. Magic didn't take the job seriously enough. We all agree on that. And even within himself, he didn't take it seriously enough, realized he had to take it more seriously. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was that he didn't take the job seriously and then still wanted to have a power struggle. See, it's one thing if you don't take the job seriously and you just want to be a figurehead, but then you can't be like, we got to fire Luke or else. I want to fire Palinka or else. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't take that stance. You can't be like my way or the highway, particularly when your title says you're supposed to have final say on all things. You have to choose. You either got to do the work or let go of some of the responsibility. And you could be a figurehead and it'd be like, yeah, Magic is president of basketball operations. You know, he has final say on everything, but you're really like, you know, doing business meetings and sipping Mai Tais in Hawaii. and just coming around and helping recruit with whatever they say they need. They're like, we want to get Ben Simmons. You go out and put out the feelers, make it look really welcoming to Ben. That's one thing. But it's another thing when you're like, I definitely want to have these things done, but I don't want to put in the work to do it. And since you're not just rolling over and doing whatever I say, now I'm starting to feel betrayed.
Yeah,
That's an entirely different thing.
I don't.
And the thing is, his press conference had zero accountability in it. Not a single syllable about his vision for the team, mistakes that were made, but ways that he saw that they go forward. It was all BS. And I like Magic Johnson. That's the funny thing. I like, respect, and admire Magic Johnson. So I'm not trying to attack him. But that press conference, in terms of it being comedic, it's only funny because his intention was to manipulate everybody emotionally. 100%.
Well, that's not why it was funny to me. His facial expressions and mannerisms are just hilarious to me. They
Yeah.
always have been. Like he does like stuff with his eyes and stuff that are just hilarious. But it, I don't disagree really with anything that you said, except for I don't know that. I guess I don't know. I guess maybe manipulation seems like a strong word, but I do think that he wanted to wash his hands of the situation, step away, without being too dirty, without slinging too much mud, but saying essentially, this is not what I want. This is not what I want. For whatever I mean, I think everybody kind of can see and know what he didn't do well. I mean, the Lakers under his watch put all of their eggs in a sign big free agent basket. That's all of their eggs were in that. And when they only got LeBron, they were screwed. They were done.
Well, see, even with that, like, I honestly think that people are grossly overreacting to the Lakers situation.
Yeah,
They're not in a
I
terrible
don't think it's I
situation.
know I don't think so
Like,
either. I don't think so either.
and this is why I keep going back to the culture. But and I talked about LeBron with the toxicity. I feel like the Lakers where they are, the injury unfortunate. They were in fourth place, trending upwards. That's too bad, right?
Hmm.
Bunch of guys on 1 year contracts, but then you start hearing stuff like Luke Walton as a coach being a problem. He didn't have to be a problem. It's not like Luke Walton didn't tear LeBron's groin,
I hope not.
right?
I
So
don't. I don't
blaming
know what
that
kind
they
of locker room that happened in, but like
right.
you said,
Exactly. So they're putting all that blame on Luke Walton. I look at the Lakers when LeBron's not playing, and I'm like, they look like a team that knows what they're doing. They're not like running around with like chickens with their heads cut off or anything. Where I'm just like, this coach got to go. And even his attitude handling all this stuff. Luke Walton didn't make anything worse ever. And like crazy things happen. Magic screaming at him in the background, all these words about him being done at the end of the season. Even the fact that Magic put out there, I'd fire him now, but I promise Jeannie I give him a season. Like that's wild. And Luke Walton was just like positive, keeping his head up and coaching his team. LeBron sitting at the end of the bench, pouting, holding the ball at the top of the key half the time. He just roll with it. I was just like, so that's not a serious problem. I think Luke Walton's a good coach. Is he a great coach? I don't know. I think
we
he
don't know
needs
yet.
a
We
right.
don't
He
know
needs
yet.
a better situation. So you have
Yeah.
a coach that's at least decent. At least decent. You have young players, again, at least decent. Do all the parts fit perfectly? No. Lonzo Ball's got to fix his free throw situation. Brandon Ingram, for 2 seasons in a row, second half of the season, looked way better than he did in the first half of the season, which is a great sign for a young player, especially a young player who's still filling out his body. Kyle Kuzma is a great pick. He is what he is. Julius Randle under Luke Walton's watch was clearly getting way better. Y'all done got rid of him for no reason. So
Yeah.
y'all have a crew of young players that are decent to good. You have a bunch of cap space. You have LeBron James. You have a decent coach. You have draft picks. Why is everybody crying and panicking?
Yeah, no, I see. I don't think it's really necessarily a pan. I mean, maybe some kind of irrational Laker fans are panicking. I definitely don't think it's panic. I use the word screwed, but I just meant like for this season, for
But I
your
think a lot
goal.
of people think the Lakers are a mess. But the
Nah,
thing
I
is,
don't think so. Like I believe people think that. I just don't think that.
yeah, the reason they seem like a mess is because they won't get on board and be disciplined as an organization. They don't line up together and form a sphere of focus. So I think Magic being gone makes it more likely that they will have some cohesion and consistency in the organization, but it doesn't guarantee it by any stretch. I don't know if Rob Pelinka is good or bad at his job. I have no idea. With Magic there, that was part of the problem is Rob Pelinka only has limited accountability because you could blame everything on Magic. So
Yeah.
now we'll see where he is and all that stuff. I don't think Jeannie Buss is just this wilting flower who's just smiling and nodding and
Oh,
doing the
no,
best she
not at
can.
all.
No,
Not at
she a
all.
cold-blooded daughter of a billionaire who, you know, a multimillionaire anyway, who I think has been around this organization for a long time and is very shrewd about keeping her place and moving the organization forward. And there's even reports that this is Jeannie's fantasy that Magic leaves without her having to have some big falling out with him. He basically, falls on his sword and he's a martyr and he throws that magic smile and makes it all okay. And they can get to the business of becoming an actual decent franchise now.
Yeah, I think the Lakers are guilty of being a little too loyal to some of their greats. But I guess maybe only two of them really. You know, I think that they were too loyal to Kobe down the stretch. Um, I think that it would have been a tough thing to do, but I think that they should have moved him, and I think they could have found takers late, later in his career, because I don't think that he helped their franchise move forward. I think they were too loyal to Magic throughout this time period. Perhaps they could have gone with somebody that was much more experienced. But then on the one hand, I understand the Kobe thing too, because the Lakers made a bazillion dollars.
That's what I
The
was going to
last,
say. I
yeah,
think the
you
on
know,
court product, they weren't going to win the championship. And he was going to retire in a couple of years. So with him, it was, you going to get us this TV deal. It doesn't matter what we put on the floor. We can literally play for cap space and draft picks while you give us equal money on the TV deal. It's the same thing I said about the Zion Williams thing. Like everybody says about Zion Williams. You got to be realistic about the fact that they need to sell tickets and they need to have people watching them on TV and get those TV spots. And
hey,
Kobe guaranteed that. They just signed that deal. That is what. And the thing is, that deal was, again. This is a smaller family. This isn't. They're not as rich as Jim Dolan, right? Or Steve Ballmer and guys like that. So that TV deal is a really big deal for the Lakers, and they basically didn't have, and they just offered that deal to him. They didn't have the option. It was the other stuff. It was paying Luol Deng and you
yeah,
know
I don't,
Timothy Mozgov. That was the
I,
problem. It
I,
wasn't Kobe.
I don't know about that. The Lakers are the Lakers, and and while I wouldn't suggest that having Kobe hurts getting any type of TV deal, but the Lakers are the Lakers, man. The Lakers don't need any one particular person to get them a TV deal. And then if you really think about the essence of a TV deal, which is something forward looking, you're going to give a team a TV deal for a guy who's got a year or two at the most left in his career. I don't think that factors in as much on a future deal as building an actual future
Well,
on a
at the time,
franchise that is one of the figurehead franchises in the NBA. So I think that from that standpoint, they're going to do their thing either way. I think that moving Kobe, you would have been able to get assets because he's still Kobe. And there's some other teams out there who may have had assets who don't have the established fan base that the Lakers have, who would have probably overpaid for Kobe because of for the same reasons that you're talking about for what why the Lakers kept him.
there's a couple of things with that. First of all, what I'm saying, it's not my personal idea. These are reports, again, various sources that I read that said basically they paid Kobe because they wanted him for that TV deal. That's what the report said. So what the people proposing and signing that TV deal were saying in the meetings,
Mhm.
we don't know that. I don't really have an opinion on that aspect of it. I'm just saying what was reported.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was Kobe had been saying for a while, I'm not playing for any other teams, right? So there was no him leaving the Lakers. He said over and over ad nauseum that ship has sailed. So it is basically as a negotiator, he's saying if you try to move me, I'm just going to retire. So he was unmovable. Now He didn't even have to negotiate that deal. That's the thing. It's not like Kobe held him over a barrel and was like, "Give me $25 million a year," which at this point isn't even that much money.
Right.
Uh, they just said, "Here's your veteran deal." Now, what did the rest of the team look like? The rest of the team was really bad. So
Yeah.
that's what we get to. Like people talk about the Kobe deal, like, oh, they just couldn't sign so many players because they had a cap of $120 million and they gave him
No, no,
$119 million.
yeah, I
No,
don't think it was
they
that.
had an entire cap to fill up with good players. Kobe got the celebrity paycheck, and the rest of the paycheck went to people who were really bad at their jobs. And they had Byron Scott as a coach, and he is not a modern NBA coach. So
Yeah,
that is what it is.
I don't think it was about saving money. I think it was about what assets could you have procured. And I understand maybe Kobe make given the impression that he would retire if,
I think he had a no trade clause
yeah,
too. So
if if given that impression that he would retire. But there was a time period when, as an organization, you see things coming and you have to make tough decisions about things that you see coming, and you have to be first in doing so. So I don't know. I just feel like I think it was more about what assets they could have gotten for Kobe, but that's all as essentially is water under the bridge at this point. Um, they're in the situation they're in, which is not a horrible situation by any stretch. It's just it feels horrible to Laker fans with extremely high expectations for their team every single year because they are the
mm-hmm.
Lakers. So, but I don't think it's really as bad as it seems. But moving on to the next concept, we got two of the NBA's greatest players, um, arguably two of the best players to ever play the game at their respective positions, retiring this year, going out the same year. Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki. Um, I got a question. Who's a better player, Dwayne Wade or Dirk Nowitzki? Who had a better career?
I think it's not a great comparison because they play very different positions and had fairly different roles in their franchises and played in two different conferences, which for their era really mattered. Um, Dwayne Wade's career is greatly changed by his personality and his relationship with LeBron James. So, and this is not to shade on any of his accomplishments because he has some wonderful accomplishments even without that. But the thing that really separates them is LeBron James went to Miami because Dwayne Wade was there. And that gave Miami two more championships, four more finals appearances, and moved them into the more prestige group of franchises. And I think Dwayne gets credit for that, but I don't think that is something you normally compare in terms of players. Dirk had a wonderful career. The thing about Dirk is that he had the consistency. Like if you have a franchise and Dirk is there for as long as he's been there, how many seasons did he play?
Uh,
18, 19?
no, I think it was over 20. I think it's
Was it 20? Did he play a whole
I
20?
think it's 20.
Oof. So Dirk, when a guy puts in 20 years, he never leaves the team. I think Dirk's championship and Wade's championship are a little bit similar in the sense that Wade in the finals was the best person holding the basketball.
Hmm.
But I feel like Dirk throughout the entire playoffs was the best person touching the basketball. And he specifically beat Wade that time, and Wade specifically beat Dirk. So I think their careers are reasonably close, even though I think Dwayne Wade is a better player. But because Dwayne hasn't always been healthy, because he left the team, and because some of his best accomplishments were the result of more his personality than his play in terms of his friendship with LeBron, I think they're a little more even than people would say. But obviously, I think he's more accomplished.
Yeah, I definitely would give Wade the edge. Wade is to me was a better player. I think that obviously you have the differences in positions and so on and
Yeah,
so forth.
Dirk literally invented a move, and everybody in the league is copying it now, which I'll always give you a lot of credit for.
Absolutely, that's all great. But Wade was a better player to me. I think Wade was a more, um, just a more complete. He was a more. If you take into consideration what you expect from each person in their role as a superstar, but with the differences being the positions that they play and so on and so forth. If you were to take into consideration those things, I think that Dwayne Wade was just a better player. Um, I mean, Dirk Nowitzki's amazing. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen. But I would give Wade the credit. I would say he's the better player, or I think he had a better career. I don't take anything away or marginalize anything that Wade did once LeBron got on the team, um, because I mean, that's every almost every NBA player there is has benefited from having amazing teammates.
Well, let me clarify that. What I'm not saying I'm taking that away from Wade. What I'm saying is usually when something like that happens, it's the front office that's the organizer of that. But in
Hmm.
this situation, Dwayne Wade was the architect of the
Yes.
Heatles.
Hmm.
And that's very unique, which makes comparing his career to Dirk's kind of difficult because he deserves credit for that.
But Dirk has something too similar that he deserves credit for. Dirk took less money so many times with Dallas down the stretch to help them facilitate and make offers to guys. Now, he did it working through a general manager that he had great chemistry, an owner who he had great chemistry with. But Dirk did some of the same types of off the court. He assisted his team in player acquisition as well. And to be totally honest, there's not a lot of reports from other superstars across the league during this era who have given back as much money in an effort to bring in certain. Now, of course, Dwayne Wade did the same thing when LeBron got there, because Dwayne Wade could have said, "I want bam, and this is what
Hmm.
I need, and if you give me everything that you're supposed to pay me, you will not be able to get Dwayne. You will not be able to get LeBron James. You will not be able to get Chris Bosh." He could have done that. He didn't do that. But Dirk did do some things in terms of sacrifice. So this is why I asked this question, because I think that they're probably a little bit more comparable than it would seem normally when you're comparing a shooting guard to a power forward. But I think that their careers are somewhat similar. Not to mention the fact that they played each other twice in the finals, and split the final matchup. So I think it's pretty comparable. But um, I would give the edge to Wade, because if you want to say all things considered, right? And you look at Dwayne Wade, which was right about in his prime when he won the finals MVP in '06, right? And Dirk was coming up right to his prime. I think the next year Dirk had the year, right? That was like,
Do you
whoa.
have the MVP that which year did he have the MVP?
It feels like '07, or was it later than that? It feels
I don't
like
know.
it. I'll tell you in a second. It was, yeah, '06, '07, the next year after they lost. So they went to the finals '05, '06 season. They lost to the Heat. He came back, which is a testament to him too, because that was a crushing loss in in the finals. And to come back and have that type of season. But if you look at it, Dirk Nowitzki went out that year in the first round. The in his of his
Yeah, big upset.
Yeah, you know, um, and that's another thing, man. If you look at, and I hate to nitpick at somebody's career who's been so amazing, but if you look at the amount of first round upsets and losses just overall in the postseason, you know,
Well, that's why I talk about the different conferences because,
mhm,
and we talked about this, well, specifically about Dallas, but just overall, Kobe, Tim Duncan, they were sharing a lot of real estate. Like from when Kobe and Shaq first hit the scene, when Utah was there,
mhm,
all the way up until basically, I mean, theoretically, you could say now, but specifically for this case, up until Tim Duncan's last championship, Kobe, Dirk, and Tim Duncan were like they were really preventing each other from success in various different ways. And the fact that Dirk had to go through Kobe and Tim Duncan and did, you know what I'm saying, and did so twice, it's like, well done. Dwayne Wade, I don't know what his career would be like if he had to go through the Lakers and the Spurs every single year of his career. Because both Kobe and Tim played forever, right?
Hmm.
So Dirk is literally dealing with this all his life, you
Yeah,
know?
I don't think, but you have to kind of ask yourself, what's the question? What's more impressive, or what's least impressive? I don't, the thing of it is when Dallas was losing in the first round in Dirk Nowitzki's prime, they weren't losing to the Lakers and the Spurs.
Well, this goes back to what I was saying about. I mean, I know they lost to the Warriors, but and
They
they
lost to
lost to
the
Denver, right?
To the New Orleans Hornets in 5 games.
Yeah. So, but the thing about that is Dwayne Wade, that's where you talk about the injuries. And that's why I talk about Dirk with the consistency. Because, and it's the LeBron argument. When you're always healthy, when you're always in the playoffs, you stand to have a bunch of disappointment. But when you're Wade and you miss a season here, you're banged up for a season there, you get moved over here, then you get the privilege of only being there for the highlights. But I mean, honestly, I'm not even debating the point. I pick Wade, but I think that Dirk is impressive enough to have the discussion. And if someone felt that they prefer to have Dirk over Dwayne Wade, considering that Dallas had like the longest 50-game win streak or something like that during his tenure, like I grew up with the Dallas Mavericks being trash.
Yeah,
You know
me
what I'm
too.
saying?
I grew up with Mark Aguirre. Well, they were pretty good in the '80s with Mark Aguirre and Sam Perkins, and that was the first Mavericks team. I watched the Mavericks like a couple years removed from them being an expansion team.
Yeah.
So and then later after Mark Aguirre got traded, they were hot garbage.
Right. And they were hot garbage most of the time. They were not
Right.
a team that had any relevance to my lifetime. The only thing that mattered about that team was Jason Kidd sat there and had a cup of coffee, and Derek Harper came from there to the Knicks. That
Yeah.
was that was all that
Yeah.
mattered about the Dallas Mavericks. There was no reason to know that name. Meanwhile, for Dirk's career, they were a premier franchise. 2 finals appearances, many, many, many playoff appearances, many, many, many all-star games. And with Mark Cuban became a desired destination for a lot of people, a place that a lot of players are like, yeah, I want to go to Dallas, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Mark Cuban and Dirk, I think are
Yeah, it was credited to both of them by,
yeah,
by
they
players and like executives alike. Like, yeah, those two have really stabilized that franchise and made it a desirable location. So it's interesting because with Pat Riley, the Heat were always the Heat. They always going to be the Heat as long as Riley's there. But with Dirk, he kind of invented the Mavericks of today. So
hmm.
that's why I say it's kind of close because that consistency matters to a franchise. It matters to a city when your best player is always healthy, always gets you in the playoffs. That
Hmm.
does matter.
So I got another question.
Sure.
I got another question. Who do you think means more to their franchise? Wade to the Heat, or Nowitzki to the Mavericks?
And this is where it comes down to.
Hmm.
I think for Heat fans and Mavericks fans, it's equal. That's why I said that. I think Dirk's one championship and years of consistency, total class all the way through. Him being the symbol for the franchise, practically being the logo for that franchise, matters as much to Mavericks fans as much as Wade's 3 championships, bringing LeBron, him being a good guy, Wade County, all that stuff. I don't think that Dallas Mavericks fans love Nowitzki less than Heat fans love Dwayne Wade, and I don't think they have a reason to.
No,
But Wade's a better player and has a better legacy. But in terms of like, if that was my team, I would feel as strongly about Dirk as anybody could feel about anybody. You know?
no, I would agree. I would agree. I would say the love, because they are without question the two most beloved players of their respective franchises, and the love that Mavericks fans have for Dirk and Wade, Heat fans have for Wade, is so high that they're right there. So I would say it probably is equal. I can only think of.
Similar FVP,
Say it again. Actually, their FPVR is it similar?
FPVR, FPVR.
I don't know if I know it's got to be pretty similar. The only thing I don't know, Wade might be a little higher because on the
Well, he's got
FPVR,
the championships, but
yes,
Nowitzki's
Dirk,
got the MVP, and he's
Dirk,
got.
Dirk's thing is 276.4, and Wade's is, where is Wade's? It is. It's up. I know it's up there. It's definitely up there because
Yeah.
I mean he's ahead of LeBron for sure on the
Yeah. Yeah.
FPVR because of the time spent and all of that. So um yeah, it's really close. It's the championships are the thing though. But it definitely is really close. I think Wade is, no, actually Nowitzki's higher. Wade,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wade, Nowitzki's
So
270.6.
according to the scientifically accurate FPVR, you call Nowitzki.
Yeah, I got Nowitzki. He has been more, but a part of that too is that he got there earlier. Like Nowitzki's rookie year is 98, 99, and Wade's
But he's
rookie
also
year.
healthier too. So
Well, I
and he
mean,
never left.
and he never left. So not only did Wade get there late, he also left for 2 years. So I mean, he didn't get there late. He got there later than Nowitzki got to
Yeah,
Dallas,
yeah, yeah.
essentially. So, yeah, but yeah, this is pretty interesting. I told you, I knew I'd
But
have you quoting the FPVR before long.
hey, I love using it against you. But but definitely round of applause for both of those players. They made the league way better, and it's a
Yes,
shame to see them go. I'm
yes,
glad to see them both go out on their feet, and I'm looking forward to seeing Nowitzki mentor Porzingis and Doncic because he'll probably be a familiar face around the franchise for years to come.
I think so too. I think if he wants it, if he wants to be in a general manager type of role, if he wants to, I think it's his whenever he
Yeah.
wants. I think whenever he wants it is his. So it definitely, that will be interesting to watch and see. All right, so let's bounce out. All right, Sean Singletary, my man. It's time to talk about some scrapping.
Uh oh.
It's time to talk about some. Well, actually, you know what? Let's well, yeah, let's talk about some scrapping because I already talked about that. I was going to talk about the fight. It wasn't even a fight. It was a pushing match with the NBA 2K League. I don't know if you had a chance to see
Okay, I saw it. I saw
it.
it.
Okay, okay.
First of all,
I,
hold me back.
oh my
First
God.
of all,
Yeah,
first of
yeah,
all, hold
yeah,
me back.
yeah. Hold me back.
Second of all, if you watch tournaments a lot, occasionally there's a scuffle.
Yeah, okay.
There's only between 4 and 5 thousand people watching the NBA 2K League.
See, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. You cracked me up because you dropped that number by about 1,000 every week.
They dropping it by 1,000. I'm not dropping it. I'm just reporting it.
It's like in February, it was like they got 8,000 people. March, they got 7,000 people. April, they got 4,000 people.
It's true. Oh my God! Please let them be playing right now. Are they playing right now?
They are playing right now.
Oh, what's the numbers at? See, you interrupt
Oh,
our show.
it's late now, so I know they down.
Oh, I was trying to hear about no late. Don't let me look at Overwatch and Fortnite.
Oh, well, it's you get no argument from me. I just got through saying this on the stream earlier today that this is what it is. It's
3,081. I gave him too
3,081.
much credit. I apologize for
3,081.
being inaccurate, chat. You know I like
And
to keep the
and
truth on this
and
show. There are
and
3,000 viewers right now.
and T Wolves Gaming is putting a spanking on Lakers Gaming. It's about 17 points. I'm telling y'all, we're not gonna have a full out 2K league segment, but I really really like T Wolves Gaming. I really like what they're very well coached. And that you see a lot more off ball movement from them than just about any team, and they
Yeah.
absolutely swarm on defense. So
Yeah, I think the product on the court is getting a little better. It
yeah,
has a long way to go.
yeah,
The ball pressure needs to be dealt with not by nerfing the defense, but by making the small point guards a lot faster. They just
yeah.
should be faster. But I'm
They
seeing
should
some
be
real
fast.
plays be made.
And you know
Um,
what's so funny though? With the way that I've done my roster for the Ultimate Legends roster, that is the main thing that I targeted, right?
yeah,
The main thing I targeted was fixing the speed as much as possible.
yeah,
And I'm telling you, I can't wait for people to get a chance to play this because unfortunately, you only get a chance to play it on PC. But you could. One guy asked me to do a video with the ratings so that they could simulate it and see what it was like on PlayStation 4.
yeah.
Um, but man, I'm telling you, I am noticing some stuff with speed, whereas fast guys are beating bigs in mismatches. And that's kind of one of the biggest things I think is wrong with 2K is
Oh
they
yeah.
keep you can easily take advantage of a big on small mismatch, but you
Hmm.
can't take advantage of a small on big mismatch.
I
So
totally agree, and it's the nature of it too. Because of the big's disadvantages in real life, they play small guys differently.
hmm
But in 2K, you play small guys the same way you'd play someone your size,
absolutely.
and that ruins the overall feel of the game when it comes to switching and getting mismatches. And frankly, I think in a lot of modes, there's no point in picking a point guard. Like I've been playing some more triple threat lately,
Oh
just
yeah,
against
you
computer.
you are literally out of your mind. I mean, why would you? The only way I would say you should pick a point guard on triple threat is if that's the only pink diamond you have.
Right. But yeah, I'm playing Giannis with shooters and
Yeah,
bigs and
that's it.
yeah.
That's all you need. That's all you need. All you need is somebody who can handle it and is not going to get ripped every time
Yeah.
somebody swipes. And you don't, dude. And if don't have two bigs who can also shoot, oh, that's it.
Yeah. But going back to the 2K League thing, it's nothing. It's light work. In terms of just tournaments in general, there have
hmm
been so many, real fights at tournaments that are worthy of like discussing. This is a pushing and shoving match. I don't even know if anybody should be penalized. Maybe take a game off both people.
Yeah, but
Move on.
you take a game off of you take a game off people who are only making $35,000 in 6 months. That's
It doesn't
significant.
have to be a financial thing. It could just be on the court.
Mm, yeah, yeah,
But the people that I seen fight at tournaments weren't making no money. They was just
yeah,
there trying to win.
yeah.
You
I don't
got
know.
money if you won.
I feel like it's not a huge deal with just a shoving match, but I think that it could be a huge deal because of the fact that the league is not doing well right now in terms of drawing and growing an audience. And sometimes something's bad because of people's overreaction to it, right? So I'll give you an example, like a real basketball example, right? The Malice in the Palace was pretty bad, right? I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, you punching fans in the face is pretty bad, even though quite a few of those fans I think deserve to get punched in the face. That's just my personal opinion. But it it was pretty bad. That was like a scary situation. Like, so if you're in the stands and that spills out by you, that's a scary situation. But even still, I think that the NBA's reaction to it was a little bit much, right? It was a little bit much. Here, some of the things that came from the Malice in the Palace was they started calling games much tighter, which understandable. But the dress code also kind of stemmed from that because and that it was the Malice in the Palace and Allen Iverson that created the dress code thing, right? So the NBA said that they did a questionnaire at the time and they asked some of the season ticket holders to describe the NBA player, the NBA players in a word. And the word that they use, a lot of them, it kept coming up with this word was thug.
Yeah, I remember.
So the I think that was a total ridiculous definition, and it was a take from somebody who probably has some other type of problem, you know, and that was their take, and those people were given the tag of being prime stakeholders in that particular project. And because of that, the NBA obviously wanted to protect their relationship with sponsors and so on and so forth. They overreacted to the situation.
And
So
do you
what
think that's going to happen with the 2K League?
so that my I don't think it'll happen off of this particular thing, but here's what I say. I think that the NBA 2K League encourages trash talk. I don't personally have a problem with trash talk, right? But what I do know about trash talk is that not everybody can do it. There are some people who you cannot trash talk them because at some point, especially if they lose, they're going to want to fight.
Yeah, but you
That's
know what?
just the way it
And
goes.
if they do that, if they can't handle being a high level competition and having people say words they don't like, then they
Yeah.
just need to be kicked out the league.
It,
You've made it easy for us
got
to improve our selection process.
No, I got you, and I don't disagree with that at all. But you got to get to that point first, right? You got to get to this point where these people make themselves known. Who are the people who can't? Because let me tell you, this is not the first time that this has happened at the NBA 2K League. It's just the first time it happened out there on the floor in front of people. You know, I have good knowledge of some other incidents that have happened there as well, where people either got into it or really close to getting into it. That all I'm saying is they're going to have to do something about making sure that this doesn't happen again and that it doesn't continue to escalate, because people will overreact. And when people overreact, it can cause a business to lose money. That's really all I'm
At
saying.
this
People
point,
will overreact.
with 3,000 viewers watching this thing, any reaction is a good reaction.
And you know what? I think that that is a school of thought too, but I don't think that would be a school of thought for the NBA. Like I think that's something because the
I'll tell
NBA
you what, the NBA will look at fights real different if they were never on the news, never on TV, and the only time they got on TV is when people fought.
exactly.
Now, I don't think obviously we're not encouraging this. We don't think it should be encouraged. I don't put your hands on nobody. I do think the trash talk should be. I mean, that's easy.
You're funny, being sounded. You sounded like somebody talking to their son who keep
Yeah,
getting the don't put your hands on nobody, boy.
don't put your hands on nobody. Stop. Right? That's clear. That's obvious. We were all taught that lesson, and they need to enforce that rule. And people need to suck it up and handle the trash talk. And if something happens, understand that people discussing it is not an endorsement. And that's why, honestly, the only reason we talk about the 2K League is because one chubby person pushed some other chubby person.
I'll have you know that old Fab has lost a lot of weight. Okay, he was absolutely chubby last year. Dude has been working, but okay.
Congratulations.
I'm glad you said that though, because here is one of the things that is somewhat troubling. Right? Not, it doesn't bother me really, but I can understand how. So, this year, the 2K League teams are mic'd, right? So they are at any time the stream will patch into the communication going through the headsets from the head coach to the players, right? So the Celtics gaming head coach Rico Finney, they get the stream catches him before the brawl, or not the brawl, before the shoving match began. He's referring to the kid for Hawks Talent GC, who's a hefty kid. He's referring to him as Cookie Monster.
Wait, is that a fat thing? Because Cookie Monster ain't really
No,
fat, or was it? Is it just you
it's
just get steals? Like
I no, I'm almost positive it was a fat thing. I'm almost positive it was
I
fat.
don't know. I mean, there's some hefty hanks up in the 2K League. Like I
Well,
don't know if you
no,
could be
no, no,
singling somebody
no,
out for
no,
being fat.
no, no. Rando's a big guy. He's a big guy.
Yeah,
He's I think Rando might be the
like you
biggest.
you can't be calling somebody fat and then be like after the game, let's go to Krispy Kreme.
Yeah,
Like
he's one of the bigger guys. He's one of the bigger guys. But I give them credit. There's a lot of them that have gotten into much better. I shouldn't say a lot. There's a few of them that have gotten into much better shape this season, because some of them are taking advantage of some of these different workout programs that the teams are offering them.
which is
Uh,
great.
yeah,
Actually, I think that's fantastic
I
because
think it's
people are
great.
not taught to eat well and take care of themselves. And I love the fact that an organization that trains the greatest athletes in the world is sharing that with these players.
Yes, yes,
Because we could joke about guys being chubby. We all know gamers grow up spending a lot of their time indoors eating bad.
yeah,
But this opportunity shouldn't just be about making a little money. It should also be about treating themselves better and learning how to present themselves for people. And that's why we go back to the fighting, where it's just like, don't put your hands on nobody. This
Don't
is
put your hands on nobody. That's
yeah.
that's the word for the day. Look here, look at me good. Don't put your hands on nobody, boy. Sit up here putting your boy. You put your hands on nobody in here. You let me come down here and let them tell me you put your hands on somebody again. I'll slap taste out your mouth.
Put my hands on you.
I think that's all they need. I think they need
Yeah, that's
Nelson.
what they need. That's all they need.
I think Nelson. They need Nelson to come on the big screen at the game as soon as people start getting out of hand. Don't put your hands on nobody. And I mean that. Sucker. Yeah, I think that's what they need. And I think if that happened, everything would be okay. All right, so let's talk about some real fighting.
Yeah.
Not it was It was the funniest push I ever seen in my life.
I
I
wasn't
mean,
scared for nobody.
oh my God, he pushed him.
I didn't fear for nothing. That's part of the reason I'm like, we could
Oh,
talk about it, but
oh God,
man,
it
that,
looked like nobody was gonna get hit hard at all.
not even a little bit. Not
Oh
even a
God,
little bit.
a bunch of NBA 2K leaguers, boy, you 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 better watch it. You ever seen my crossover on the sticks? I can do that same thing with my finger, but go across your
Oh,
eye. I do the same motion I do with my crossover in your eye. And you gonna be
it
blind.
was. Don't cover your children's eyes. It'll be
Oh,
fine.
oh my God. It was one of the worst. It was one of the worst pushes I ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But he had good
Like he
posture.
looked like he didn't even know he was being pushed until after he saw the facial expression
And,
of a
and,
man who meant to push him. Like it was such a light push. He looked like he thought it was an accident at first.
yeah, he said, "Did you fall? Oh, be careful, sir." It was so bad. It was so
Yeah.
bad. I said, man. So they
Stick to the game.
yeah, two of the non-tough lookingest kids ever in the world almost had a fight. So it was funny. But
did they though?
Yeah, oh my God. It was so funny.
It looked like they were both eager to end the conversation right there.
And you know what? Okay, this got to be the last one. This last episode. But it was funny because the height is a drastic height difference, right?
Yeah.
So he really pushed him in the booty. Because that's all he could reach. He's going, ooh, get your booty out of my face. Oh my God, it was funny. Anyway, let's talk about TJ Dillashaw because he's taking drugs that he ain't supposed to be taking.
Yeah.
All right. So I already had a little rant on TJ Dillashaw. So you go ahead and tell me what you feel, and I will add anything to that needs to be added.
Well, I saw your rant. I enjoyed it very much, and I agree with.
Thank you.
No problem, man. I love giving you praise and credit.
I just feel so. Whoa, I feel so.
So you know I'm telling the truth when I tell the truth.
Oh my God!
So
it's a picogram of praise.
So TJ Dillashaw took more than a picogram. There's some interesting things about this. First and things and foremost, this is another opportunity to elevate this conversation about PEDs. They're not all created differently. Some stuff is just a thing in GNC that not cool for UFC guys, totally cool if you work in the office, nobody cares. And some of the things are blacklisted, truly illegal, and provide a significant advantage in several different ways. And TJ Dillashaw was essentially taking the super soldier serum. And he vacated his belt immediately. Like he vacated his belt before they caught him. Like he went on Twitter and said, "I vacate my belt." And they were like, "Why?" And somebody was like, "Pico, he popped for steroids." He's like, "Oh." Like he literally was off that belt so fast. And then you had
he said, "Here's my belt," and they said, "Why?" He said, "You'll find out. Don't worry. Check your email.
Check your Twitter.
Check your email.
Yeah.
Don't
You'll
call
get
me."
it right. So he's guilty as OJ, and he was taking the worst stuff in the world. That, like you said.
Wait a minute. Did you just say he guilty as OJ? Is that what you just said?
I said
you
that.
are unruly, off the chain. First of all, you done call. So okay, here's your rap sheet for today. You done call OFAB and Rando.
I ain't named no names.
Chubby kids. That's what you did. And now you talking about the man as guilty as OJ. You are unhinged today.
How am I unhinged? OJ went to jail.
Oh, so everybody go to jail guilty.
He was ruled guilty by a court of
law.
Well,
he didn't go to jail for OJ didn't go to jail for the murder. You got to remember. OJ.
I didn't say he was guilty as. I didn't say Dillashaw was guilty of murder.
No,
I just say he's as guilty as OJ. However guilty you feel is.
OJ went to jail for trying to steal back his Heisman Trophy. That's my Heisman Trophy. Give me back my stuff.
Didn't he use a gun to try to steal it back?
Well, what happened was
was it armed robbery?
He came in with some dudes, and I think they had a gun, and then he wouldn't allow people. He wouldn't allow people to leave the
So he
room
just bought the gun and gave it to a younger person.
and said, "Here, your fingers is better. You got good like you do the crossover on 2K, and you blind somebody with that." So yeah, but yeah, he did. Anyway, I don't know how we got on OJ today, but yeah.
Yeah. So he's guilty as OJ. He, the thing about this that's really special is he's been being called out for using steroids for quite some time, and
Well, Cody, yeah, Cody
Cody
was the one.
Garbrandt
Yeah,
has been calling him for this particular steroid.
yeah, he named it out. He said EPO.
Right, and now he's actually been popped for it, and we don't know the extent that this goes because it's going to be an investigation into him. But it does call into question his his career now, and you say, well, how much of his accomplishments? Because we always talk about PEDs and scrubbing people's accomplishments, and in this case, it's suitable, and in that case, it's not suitable. I think in Dillashaw's case, it is suitable to no longer think of him as one of the great fighters, to think of him as a dirty fighter until we get evidence that tells us otherwise.
Honestly, there was something else that was added on to it. They went back and did secondary test on his urine samples from previous fights, and
Yeah,
those also showed EPO.
there we go. And this goes back to what we were saying about um, the results and stuff like that. Is that the modern testing methods are different than what they were
Yes.
before.
Hmm.
So, and not to compare it to John all day every day, but the picogram joke comes with the fact that the reason we're even measuring that small remnants that small is because we now have the capability.
And it's
If
relevant.
you right, if you rewind back 10 years and you test everybody under those circumstances, you might come out with a whole lot of different results. But in the modern time, because testing is so great, and Dillashaw was able to be scrutinized and found out, yeah, I mean he's a dirty fighter. 2 years, I don't even think it's a clean 2 years. I think it's 2 years and we'll talk. I think his stuff is his infractions are so severe that I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a good long time before he wasn't able to fight again.
Well, here's the thing. It is clean that he can just come back in 2 years, except for the fact that um, he may have to be reinstated. I don't think that will be a problem if the UFC still believes he can generate them money. I don't think that'll be an issue. The UFC allows all kinds of people into their ranks. I mean, Greg Hardy beating on girls. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff going on, right? So, uh, if they believe that the person can make them money, they'll be back. They'll be back but here's the thing: by the time he's eligible, he'll be 2.5 weeks shy of his 35th birthday,
Yeah,
and
and he'll be clean. He
and
might
he'll
be
and
a
he'll
crow
he'll
cop situation.
right he'll be clean.
Yeah,
And you don't see as many mid to late 30s top level performers in the smaller weight classes.
correct. I totally agree.
So that's another thing about it.
Especially
Uh,
a striker.
especially, I mean, but no, Dillashaw is a fantastic wrestler too.
He's well, I mean specifically, he's not a submission guy.
No, he's not a submission. He's a ground you, stay on top of you, beat you down kind of guy. That before I don't know when nobody, I mean, I'm sure somebody knows, but I don't know when the EPO usage started. But there was a time when the primary portion of his game was really built in the wrestling aspect. But his career took off when he started to implement more striking and having the wrestling as something in the background, right? I mean, as a backup, so to speak, because I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw TJ use a great deal of wrestling.
Hmm.
And I mean, it might have been Takeya Mizugaki or something, now a fight like that. I can't remember the
And,
last time.
and that begs the question: is do we know for a fact that his wrestling is high level enough for him to make a career off of it at the highest level?
Well, I think because
Particularly if he has to fight clean.
yeah, see, but it all comes down to when did he start? Because
Yeah,
the wrestling for him is in his background all the way back as an amateur wrestler. He has that background. What what is being said by his people, like his supporters, and I'm talking about like people in his camp, the statement that they have released since then is that he succumbed to the pressure of trying to be a certain guy. Um, and I make this analogy all the time, right? As somebody who used to work in sales, right? I used to work in sales, and I was pretty decent salesman. But the thing about sales is sales can be a trap for many people because sales at a high level is a really super competitive field. It's
Hmm.
very competitive, right? And the more you sell, the more you start to come into the knowledge of little shortcuts and little things that you can do that cheat the system, that either get you higher numbers, which generally result in more money, more attention, more praise, blah, 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 blah. And as a competitive salesperson, there's a time in your life or multiple times in your life where you're faced with the question as to whether or not you're going to try to sell dirty, essentially, right? Or if you're going to just keep doing the system the way it's supposed to be doing, and where it gets tough for people. And I think this is a really good analogy in comparison to steroid, right? Because where it gets tough for people and where sometimes people slip is they might be doing it right at one point, right? And then what happens is they see peers achieving and they know that these peers are doing, or they suspect that they're doing it the wrong way. They suspect that they're cheating. And then they get frustrated or they get caught up in the competition aspect, dynamic, and they go, you know what? I'm about to do the same thing. They're the people who exposed Barry Bonds. Um, and Barry Bonds never was proven of anything. It's just one of those things that people believe, yeah, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that would support it, but there was nothing ever concrete ever grabbed about Barry Bonds. But the people who did talk about Barry said that the conversation that he had was that he watched Mark McGuire and
Right.
Sammy
And
Sosa
Sammy Sosa, and they
hit
were like,
70 and 66 home runs, and he told somebody, if I take that, I will shatter everything that they did because I'm a better hitter than both of them. And if I did it, watch and see what happens. And
hmm.
it's the same type of dynamic. People succumb to that competitive environment, and competition can bring out the best or the worst in you.
Speaking of which, how's that Barry Bonds Road to the Show series coming along?
Hey, 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 crossover, crossover. And do the crossover and it's actually he's up to 300 now. So I
Oh,
don't
my
even
man.
He's up to 300. He got 3 home runs. He only has 5 extra base hits, which is totally not very, but he's coming along. He's doing good. I think he's gonna be all right. I think it's gonna be all right.
Good to know. Good to know. I'll be staying tuned in.
And Slim Pepper Jack is on his way back as well too. So I need y'all to
I miss Slim Pepper. That's my
yeah,
favorite show.
he's my guy. He's my guy. And so he had to go get fitted for some more pants. He wears 1962s. So he's a 19-inch waist, 62-inch inseam. So he's gonna, he's ready. He's ready.
but yeah, on Dillashaw, bad news for him. It's too bad. I was a fan of watching him fight, but this is cheating, straight up, dirty, dirty cheating.
It is.
And as far as I'm concerned, until 2 years from now, he is scrubbed from my personal memory and interest. He has
Yeah.
to atone for what he's done. He's put a lot of people in danger, taking the stuff with the intensity that he took, and getting the advantages that he got. And I'm glad that the sport is more fair without him in it.
Yeah. It's really, let's put it like this. I've never been a fan of TJ Dillashaw, right? I never. I respected him. I know how great of a fighter he was, or it appeared to me that he was, but I've never been a fan, right? Some guys and some athletes, you just look at and you're like, yeah. I'm not gonna lie and say he wasn't good, but it just doesn't. It don't. It's there's no connection there, right? For me to be
Yeah.
like, I root for this person, right? So I never had that with TJ Dillashaw. So as a matter of fact, I can't remember, like, so I cover the sport, and I generally don't say who I root for until like maybe they're retired or something. But
Hmm.
but doesn't mean that I don't root, right? I have never, ever, ever in my life seen a TJ Dillashaw fight that I was rooting for him. Every time he's ever fought, I've been rooting against him. Every time. So it you know, so it doesn't impact me as much as it would somebody who has been a fan of his. Because I can only imagine how a TJ Dillashaw fan feels right now. That probably really hurts. It's probably a punch in the gut, right? So it's just one of those things. But yeah, it's a bad thing. It's definitely a bad thing. You know what I don't think is getting enough attention about this is it. We talked about how sometimes negative press, negative attention is a good thing when we were talking about the 2K League. At what point, if ever, do you think all of this negative stuff ends up hurting the UFC? Because there's actually the negativity around the UFC is actually more plentiful than the positivity. You know,
Well, here's a okay.
ESPN is doing a good job though in selling a lot of the good stories, like the little thing that they just did on Michelle Watterson being the MMA mom. You know, that was a positive thing, and they had some other stuff that they've done since the deal started in January. But I mean, you got Conor McGregor snatching phones, stepping on phones. You got Conor McGregor getting accused of sexual assault. You got TJ Dillashaw. You got John Jones, who is my guy, but he got some stuff. You know what I'm saying? You got
Well,
you
I mean,
wait.
John's been on good behavior for a while, though.
He's been doing all right for the last 6 months. He's been good, no problems.
What did
But
he do
then you
before that?
the picogram thing is
But that
came
was
out.
from
It
years
was,
ago.
but the news is new. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about necessarily from a concrete standpoint. I'm talking about in a from a perception standpoint, right? The news is new, and then now they're waiting. They're literally waiting on Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar's last fight was thrown out because he popped. So
Well, so here's the thing. Brock Lesnar wasn't on the roster when he popped, so that's not really on UFC. I think this stuff
wait,
only
say that again.
matters.
Say that again.
You said he wasn't. His fight wasn't happening when he was popped, right? Like,
No,
was
it
he
was.
signed
Yeah,
or
no.
was he
Brock
still?
Brock Lesnar popped for the
I
drug.
thought he was in WWE.
Well, he was back and forth for both, but he popped during the drug test for the Mark Hunt fight.
When was this?
This was his last fight. This was a UFC 200. The UFC
I mean, it's
200.
a long time ago, though,
But
right?
that's the reason why it's a long time ago because his suspension just ended.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's not on the UFC. He hasn't been here for a while, so I
But
don't
I'm
think
saying he's a
Brock is
major
really
story.
relevant.
No, he is. He's a major storyline for the UFC right now because that's Daniel Cormier's next fight. Brock Lesnar came into the cage in the UFC after Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe Miocic last year and face to face challenged him. They started literally hyping the fight right
No, I
then.
remember, but I'm saying, well, when was the steroid thing?
The steroid thing happened with UFC 200, which is I think 2017 or
Yeah,
16,
that's what I'm saying.
17.
Like, that's a minute ago. So
But I'm saying
Brock
is it's
isn't a
relevant
bad
now.
story right now, though, right? Like, it's
But I think it is
when I said
because
he's not relevant, I didn't mean Brock Lesnar's not relevant. I
no,
meant
I know
Brock
what you meant.
Lesnar
I think
steroid
it
story is
I
not
think I
relevant.
think it is relevant because you can't have a conversation about this fight with Daniel Cormier that's supposed to take place in August without bringing up the fact that the last time you were in the octagon, you were dirty. You were fighting dirty and you popped, right? The only reason we haven't seen you since then is because you popped.
No, I don't think any of this stuff it hurts the UFC unless they get to a place where they were when McGregor and Rousey were running the league and John was out and there was not a big headliner besides them. Then what your stars do gets you in trouble. But the UFC is not like the NFL. They're not a whole bunch of organizations. So if something happens in Dallas, the organization has a responsibility to with that culture, with punishing that person, with deciding what kind of players they bring in. And there's only 30 organizations, right? So where are we now? If you get 5 organizations, that's a significant percentage of your crew. UFC has, I don't know how many fighters, but it's a lot, and they're all individuals. So and the UFC has so many events and so many fights that I think it takes either all of their top people to be doing bad stuff or for them to have a lack of top people, to sell fights.
I think they are in that though. I think that's exactly where they are. That environment or that scene that you just painted, that's exactly where the UFC is. The UFC doesn't have any needle movers at all, with the exception of John and Connor. And Connor's status is indeterminate. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with him. And John is active, so you do have John, but if you look at the pay-per-view numbers for the UFC, when anybody except for John or Connor fights, it ain't good. And it's not good. So I think they are in that place.
I don't think they're in that place simply because they have exchanged. They've gone to a place where, with the ESPN deal, they have so many events going on that they've almost traded out the home runs for base hits, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the indicators have been that it's doing well with and
Hmm.
for ESPN.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, instead of looking to make $1 billion on the movie, they made a TV show. And now that the TV show is doing fine as far as TV shows are concerned. And because of that, I don't think, especially Dillashaw, like Dillashaw was not somebody that I considered, oh no, what's TJ Dillashaw going to do this week? Like, he was a fighter who was very good, that if you watch the sport, you know who he is. And if you don't, you might not. And he got popped for steroids and he's out of here. It'd be a different thing if they had like a culture of letting this stuff go. The only person who makes that argument is John. And we agree that that's not the case. Um, so yeah, I don't think this. I think if the Connor situation happened a lot, where like with Habib, where they're like fighting at the show, getting into the crowd, if that thing was happening all the time with different people, then I think it could really hurt the product. But this stuff about individuals doing dirt, getting caught, and getting kicked out. I mean, what else is supposed to happen? You can't.
Yeah. I think my concern is rooted in the fact that if you ever get to the point where you are questioning the validity of a champion, too many champions' accomplishments, and the validity of the talent of the elite fighters, because TJ Dillashaw was arguably, and you can make a strong argument that he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. You could make a strong argument, and there's only one other name that could be mentioned along that line, and that's Dominic Cruz. And you could easily have said TJ was better, because even though Dominic beat TJ in a controversial decision, Dominic has been hurt so often, right? TJ hadn't been hurt. Well, we kind of know why, but he hadn't been hurt, So I do, while he's not a name that necessarily, I would say TJ Dillashaw, from a champion standpoint, in terms of a draw, he's the next tier down, or he was the next tier down from. So you got Connor that's on a tier by itself. Connor and Ron, well, Connor was on a tier by itself. Ronda was right below him. Uh, Brock Lesnar was probably somewhere between Ronda, and I'm talking about history. Brock Lesnar's right there in between them. Chuck Liddell's probably right there around there, and then John's a little bit below them. TJ Dillashaw was the next level down. Now, everybody else below TJ Dillashaw and the people on TJ Dillashaw's level kind of don't even matter. And I left Georgia St. Pierre because he goes up there in the top or
I
upper
was going to
part.
ask you about George and
Yeah,
Anderson Silva.
yeah, and Anderson Silva, they go up in the top area as well. But so I say that to say that TJ Dillashaw wasn't a nobody from a UFC notoriety
Yeah, he
standpoint,
wasn't nobody.
but I think it's more of an issue of an accumulation of sins, not just this one big smack type of a
So
thing.
you think the UFC's in trouble?
No, I don't think it's in trouble, but I wonder how long before somebody says, "You know what? Man, I'm tired of every single time there's a champion that I look up to, that I like, that I put a lot of credit on, or I say it's this great fighter, that it seems like just give them time. They're going to get popped."
I
If you
don't think that's the situation they're in, though.
But okay, think about it like this. Now, obviously, we both know, and we both talked about the fact that not all PED violations are created equal, right? But if you just go through the champions, right, of the different weight classes, there is an alarming percentage of them. I'm talking about all-time greats in many instances who have popped. So it's crazy. We haven't had we have had a former heavyweight champion. Brock Lesnar was a former UFC heavyweight champion. He popped. Okay. Then you have the greatest light heavyweight of all time. Now, obviously, like we both said, it's not all created equal, but the greatest light heavyweight of all time, John Jones's name is associated with PEDs. Right. You go down to the next weight class. When you look at middleweight, Lyoto Machida, who is a middleweight and a light heavyweight, he's popped. Dan Henderson had the TRT thing. Vitor Belfort had the TRT thing. He was a middleweight light heavyweight. You drop down to welterweight, and it just goes on and on and on all the way down through.
But if I was to flip it and name all of the champions who weren't popped, because the statement is every
But they're
time I
not the
root for somebody they
greatest.
get popped.
They're not the greatest
Well, I
though.
don't think you named the greatest. I mean, John
Anderson,
Jones is the only one.
Anderson Silva, John Jones, TJ Dillashaw.
Well, again, I don't think with George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, Chuck Liddell, uh, Daniel Cormier. There's plenty of
I
great
would
great
say
fighters who've
everybody that
not
you
been popped.
said. I say everybody that you said, with the exception of Chuck Liddell, is not on the level from a notoriety standpoint of the people that I named who have been popped dirty.
You think that George St. Pierre is not as on the
Oh,
level
I'm
of
sorry. I'm sorry. No, and George, I didn't. You said him first, and I was thinking
even
about the
Daniel
last
Cormier. I think Daniel Cormier is bigger
Daniel.
than Lyoto Machida was.
No, I'm not talking about that. I was talking about John Jones, Anderson Silva.
Well, no, but John, yeah. I mean, but John is tipping the scales to a degree because he's John. I think you take John off the list, and then you get a lot of big names that have never had been any kind of trouble at all whatsoever.
They got Anderson Silva.
What's his name too? You got Mighty Mouse.
No,
Demetrius.
he's
Never had a problem.
but he's Mighty Mouse is the most disrespected, least known great fighter in the history of the whole sport.
But I mean,
And
he's
I
all
guess
time
that's my
great though.
point. He absolutely is. He, in my opinion, I think it's him and John, and everybody else is just talking. You know what I mean? But I'm talking about from a perception standpoint to the biggest names. There are at least 20 mixed martial artists who have a bigger name than Demetrius Johnson.
Okay,
You know,
but have 19 of them been popped for steroids?
probably 10. Probably
And
10.
out of that 10, how many of them is modern current UFC, like last 5 years?
Probably 10.
10 last five
Probably.
years steroid
Probably.
problems amongst champions.
Yeah, Brock, because Brock has fought in the last 10 years.
But he wasn't a
Uh,
champion in the last 10 years.
well,
Last 5 years.
last 5 years. No, not the last 5 years. Not the last 5 years. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think if you're a fan of the sport, if you're like deep diving into the sport and you're looking at everything and you're aware of everything, then yeah, it seems like, man, this is like a serious problem. Even though the problem has been worse in other MMA leagues, like
mhm.
that Pride was dirty as they come, right? Dirty as a
Yeah,
diaper.
there wasn't no dirty,
So
but it was no dirty. It was just go fight.
it's just how they work, and that's the thing because UFC is stamping down on it. I don't. I think, like I said, they got guys missing weight, and then events don't have their headliner. That's a serious problem. If they are ruining events with fights too much, that's a serious problem. Um, if they have a lot of events where people don't perform well, that's a serious problem. These side stories, I don't think this negative drama affects the UFC poorly until it starts to seriously become something you expect to ruin a main card.
Well,
And
I think it becomes a problem when sponsors begin to pull money. If sponsors don't pull money, it doesn't matter. That it's
yeah,
really just that simple. If sponsors don't pull money, don't pull advertising money, then it doesn't matter.
yeah, and ticket sales too. That matters.
But
Venues
that
matter.
can happen like that.
Yeah, but I don't think that's where it's going because the ESPN deal. Because what we talked about after the ESPN deal, they have all of these shows. ESPN is putting their work into it, and everybody seems pretty happy right now.
Mhm,
So, and I think even that is part of the reason that this punishment is so clean, right? Like
mhm.
they popped him, get out of here. We don't need you.
Yeah, I mean,
There's no debate, no hemming and hawing, no
yeah,
defending the guy. They
none.
found his dirty laundry, spilled it out to the street, and then kicked him out right behind it. And that is what it is. I don't know what you could expect from the organization beyond that. And I wouldn't associate. And the thing is, I think if you're a fighter messing around, you looking at these, they catching picograms left and right. You're like, you know what? I think some people would be like, let me not do that. You
Yeah,
know?
I don't think so. I think that people know how not to get sloppy because I think that a ton of people are on it. And because why did TJ Dillashaw not get caught until now? I think there's a ton of people that are on it, but from what one doctor said or one trainer said, it was that he said he thinks that TJ had been on this all along. He said, but because of him having to drop down the flyweight to take on Cejudo, that he got self conscious about being able to have enough energy to because of the
So he
how
had to
drastic.
extend his cycle.
Exactly. So how drastic, how much of an impact the nasty weight cut was going to have on him. So he got nervous and took more and did more than he normally would have done, and that's what got him popped. And so if you think about it, these guys and girls, they know this sport, and usually when they get caught because they're careless, not because just at the same time as you have somebody concocting a test to catch everything, you have another guy who's just as smart or
Right,
smarter
trying to dodge everything.
trying
I
to
get
dodge
it, but
everything.
I think the science is advancing really quickly, and
Mhm,
that's starting to become apparent
mhm.
that because the more technology goes on, the more it gets advanced, the faster it gets advanced. And there are some athletes that are arrogant and think they'll never get caught. That's the nature of a lot of successful people.
Yeah,
But I
because
think there's some
they have
people.
whatever they have. They have whatever resources they have, and they feel
Yeah,
like those plugs are going to always have them.
but I think there's other people that are like, you know what, this is getting dangerous and this could end my career, and I ain't gonna mess with it. I don't need it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a problem that's gonna get much worse before it turns around and goes the other way.
Hmm. I hope you're right.
I don't think this will be the downfall of the UFC.
No, I don't think that. I don't think that. Because I think that if it got to the point where they really, really were losing money, that they would do the right thing. My question was more at what point does some of this bad press or what's the thing that's going to happen that will push this thing truly over the edge to the point where the UFC says, you know what, we got to change the way we do business
Well,
altogether.
and my answer is malice in the palace.
Mm,
The Connor Habib event was a malice in the palace type situation. It didn't go that far, but it's the same
no,
kind of thing. It
yeah,
was on the show. I
yeah.
think missing weight, people pulling out of fights,
Oh,
people
that's
fighting.
been happening. So
I know, and I think that's a serious problem,
mm,
right? So that's the line for me.
yeah,
But I think for most people, because again, I think most people don't even pay attention. Most people just buy the pay per view when they see like you said, they see, oh, is Anderson Silva and John Jones is on it, $99. You know,
woo. Yeah, yeah. Yep, yep. At one point, that would have been an exaggeration. Now it's not that much of an exaggeration. Well, it's about almost twice the price, but yeah, because it's like 59.99 in HD.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's serious. So all right, let's talk about UFC 236. Coming up. It's a decent card. It's not.
Okay, it's a very top heavy card, B. So I'm going to ask for the sake of the audience at home, them lower level fights. Let's go on and
What are you
run
talking
through
about?
that.
What are you talking about? You
You
don't
mean
want to
what?
talk. You don't want to talk about no anybody on the lower level.
No, we can talk about them, but let's not give them more time than they're due.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, yeah. I
A
go
couple of them
to.
is like OFAB versus
Oh, OFAB and Rando on early prelims, baby, and they are definitely not popping for
if
PEDs.
I yeah, if I had the time, I would draw that picture tonight.
Yes, that
If I
would
had the
be.
time and I was a meaner person, I would draw that
Oh my
picture. But I'm
God.
not. I don't, and I'm not. So
It is funny. It would be funny, and you would you probably get about 10,000 new
probably.
followers. All right, so the of the early prelims,
Oh,
the
we doing
the
early prelims?
I'm just
Wow.
it just give me 20 seconds, and then I think everything will be all right. You are
Okay, okay, okay.
you are not a
What's the story,
you
V?
are not a millennial. Why are you
What's the
acting
story,
like
V?
you can't? Come
I'm
on,
terrified. I'm terrified that we're gonna be sitting here
no,
talking about, you know,
stop it.
Sukumat.
Andre Sukumata. He is
Sukumata.
he's an exciting fighter, but his fight IQ is like 3. Like it's not good. But so he's probably gonna lose to Montel Jackson. But anyway, Curtis Melinder is a fighter that I really like. He was just on a main card, but he lost, got dominated because he has no ground game at all. And so he's taking on Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad, and he's from Chicago. So and he's Bilal is mostly, I don't want to call him a brawler, but that's the style that he's most comfortable with. Um, he cannot out. This is a good fight. This is a very good fight. This is a fight that could be on a main card on most events, right? And it's the featured early prelim. Um, he can't beat Curtis Melinder striking. He can't. He's going to get knocked out if he fights that way. So if you look, but I have a feeling that he might do that. I have a feeling that he might try to do that. If he tries to stand and strike with Curtis Melinder, we might see the most memorable knockout of the evening because it's going to end bad. It's going to end bad. But
I watched that fight when he fought Dos Santos.
yeah, yeah. He looked terrible.
He looked like he couldn't do.
He has
Man,
nothing on the ground. He has nothing.
yeah, that was bad looking.
It was
That was
bad.
really bad looking.
And this is a really quick turnaround. So if
Yeah,
you think about it, that how much work could he have really have done on his ground game in this short period of time? So that part scares me. So if Bilal fights smart and gets this fight to the ground, then he has a chance because Bilal is better on the ground than Melinda. But Bilal's not the level of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist that Dos Santos is. So I don't know if he'll really truly be able to expose him in the same way. So it's interesting. Two good fighters, but I am going to take Melinda in that fight. I think he'll win it. So
is there any other fights on that card that
no,
are
not on
okay
the.
on
I
that
mean,
on the prelim early
the
prelim?
the early prelims are a good set of fights for uh, a um a serious MMA fan. Like if you're a serious MMA fan, you probably know every single fighter on this card, right? There's nobody that's like, who is that guy? You know what I mean? The closest one is Randy Costa, and he's fighting Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis is a I mean, dude, he is a all action fighter. All action fighters. He doesn't have bad fights. So that's the one thing about this card. There are a lot of fights that look great on paper, right? In terms of all action. They may not be contender guys and girls, but there's about 5 fights on here that I think have fight of the night capabilities. So for that reason, that's something. You know, the funny thing though is we move over to the mid prelims. I actually think the early prelims are better fights than the mid prelims.
That happens sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that the matchups are actually better because I think there's a few matchups on the mid prelims that don't appear to be all that competitive in my opinion. The featured prelim on this one, Jalen Turner against Matt Steamroller Favola, that okay. Matt Favola is a difficult person to miss if you swing a punch. He You know, Ronda Rousey's the little thing they have the video that the gif when they go head movement, head
Yeah,
movement.
yeah.
He doesn't do any head movement. He's coming and he's throwing big shots, but he's easy to hit. Jalen Turner is extremely skilled, long striker, and I think he's going to detonate Matt Favola. I think he's going to detonate him. It's going to be a memorable finish for sure. Because Matt Favola is a tough guy. Constantly comes forward. He's physically strong. But dude, Jalen Turner is super tall. He's got all kinds of length and reach advantage, and just a superior striker to me overall. So, but yeah, move on to the main card. Um, and when you said top heavy, you definitely because there's some fights on here that I think are kind of like this Eric Anders Khalil Roundtree fight that should have been on the prelims. Like totally
Yeah.
to me. I don't it ain't it's yeah, bro. It's Khalil Roundtree is one of the more overrated fighters out there. I think Eric Anders is along the same lines. I think
Hmm.
he's I think he's overrated too. And I mean Eric Anders is a big strong football player. You know, that's what he is. And I think you know, his game is advancing a bit, but not quick enough to, especially to be the age that he is too. Um, I don't, yeah, that fight doesn't excite me. I have no idea who's going to win, so I guess that's a good thing. They both big, strong guys that can crack, and good athletes overall. But yeah, I'm not super excited about that. Ovin St. Preux always has good fights, and Nikita Krylov does too. I think this is the second time they fought, to be honest. I think I remember them fighting before, back when Nikita Krylov was in the UFC the first time before he went away and came back. That's a decent fight. Alan Juban against Dwight Grant could be a very exciting. Both of those guys are action guys. Um, but the co-main event and the main event. Who do you have with Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya?
Here we go. Talk about people who know how to fight. I love it.
All those other people know how to fight too.
I'm talking about on the UFC championship level, you know. And when I say championship, I mean people who have a chance to threaten people who would fight for the belt. I don't. So I'm including spoilers. My thing is, you know, when we start talking about the Knicks versus the Bulls, I'm like, don't nobody care about this but Knicks and Bulls fans. No, so
I don't know. I don't know. It's a couple of those guys. Curtis Melinda has talent. He's on that level. Lauren Mueller has talent on that
well,
level.
that's why. Oh, and some of these people I'm aware of. Some of these people I've seen fight. But for me, it's about, is there an up and comer that, you know, shouldn't have been on this card this low that we need to be paying attention to, and
That
we've
would
kind of discussed that.
that would be Jalen Turner. That would be the one
Yeah.
I would say.
So Gastelum and Adesanya. So the interesting thing about this, okay, Adesanya against Anderson Silva exposed a few things about Adesanya that when he was just, you know, shooting up the charts, people thought, you know, they automatically now they go to John Jones when a guy starts knocking people out. Who's going to be the next John Jones? That's the thing. Adesanya does not have incredible knockout power to me. It's He's a good striker, you know, maybe an overall great striker. I don't know what he's like on the ground against high level competition on the ground. And Gastelum's a really, really strong man. But speaking of not having knockout power, I mean, Gastelum's never been knocked out, which is, you know, great. So Adesanya probably not going to knock him out. But for Adesanya to beat him by decision, you looking it up?
What am I doing? You said
Are
am
you
I
looking it up?
looking up which part?
Um, what are you looking up?
I'm just I pulled back up the UFC the matchup screen.
Yeah, but yeah, Adesanya. Would this be the first fight he loses? I don't think so. I think he wins by decision. But if Gastelum takes him down, and this is the first fight where he loses on the ground, I wouldn't be surprised. But my gut tells me that Adesanya keeps his distance, picks at him, outclasses him as a striker, and wins by decision.
Yeah, I think overall I'm in the same place in terms of the way the fight has to take shape. I do not think that he will be able to stay off the ground this entire fight, though. Gaslam's a good fighter.
Yeah.
Gaslam's a good fighter, and Gaslam's a complete fighter, and Gaslam is a better athlete than he looks. Right? When you look at him, he doesn't look like he's all that explosive or anything like that, but he's a better athlete than he looks. And honestly, he's already beaten a guy who has a similar style to Adesanya. He beat him in the a long time ago. It was in the Ultimate Fighter finale when he took on Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall and Israel Adesanya have some similarities in terms of fighting style. Um, both of them are extremely maybe economical with their strikes to a fault. And for a worker like Gastelum, who constantly brings it and brings pressure and attack, body pressure and strikes, I think that that could be a problem for Adesanya, especially because Adesanya, to me, what I've noticed about him on the ground in the brief times that we've seen him on the ground, Marvin Vettori was able to get him down in his UFC debut against Nicholson. I think is the guy's name we fought in the first fight. He was able to get him down briefly, but Vettori was able to actually get him down and keep him there for a little bit of time. What I've learned about Adesanya is he's pretty decent at getting up, right?
Yeah.
But getting up against one guy is totally different than being able to get up against another guy,
But
right?
can't you say the same thing in terms of closing the gap? Because I mean, Adesanya is super skilled and super tall.
He's super tall, he's super skilled, but he's not extremely active. And that's the thing about it. That's why I don't similar fight, very similar fighting styles to Uriah Hall. Not quite as tall. I mean, your Hall's not quite as tall as Adesanya, but similar fighting styles. And Gastelum was able to neutralize Uriah Hall's offense, the bit and avoid the counter attempts that he was trying to do with pressure. He simply outworked Uriah Hall. Now, Adesanya has higher fight IQ than Uriah Hall.
That's the key for me. Is his? I think Adesanya is a game plan guy,
Hmm.
and he knows what Gastelum wants to do,
Hmm.
and that's really what it is. Can Gastelum work without taking damage? Because I think part of the reason Adesanya isn't active is because he's strategic and careful. And when
Hmm.
you sometimes when a guy's a worker, that works to their advantage because they're able to make a guy uncomfortable because they make it sloppy.
Hmm.
Sometimes it works to their disadvantage because they wind up losing a lot of health
Hmm.
on the way in.
Yeah.
And with a reach advantage that great and Adesanya being so accurate, that's why I'm like, I feel like, even a guy like Gastelum, how long does it take before he becomes more careful?
He's got to get touched up. He's got to get touched up
Yeah.
well. He's not going to just get more careful just off of GP. He's got to get touched up, and Adesanya is going to have to make him feel it. So I think the two most important fights to look at, because all fights are different. Everybody, you can have two guys who stand the exact same height, or you can have another guy who fights a similar style, but it's different because this is this guy and that's that guy. But the two fights you want to look at in Gastelum's past that will potentially tell you the most about what might happen in this fight is against Uriah Hall and then against Neil Magny. Neil Magny is an extremely tall fighter for the weight class. And he pulled an upset over Gastelum, split decision victory. And Magny, but see, Magny is a high level wrestler, very high. He's really super long and lean, and he did use his jab to kind of keep Gastelum at bay in that fight. But he's a really high level wrestler, so even when the fight went to the ground, he was in his element. Um, Adesanya will not have that benefit, right? Um, so I actually have Gastelum winning this fight.
You have Gastelum.
I
Okay.
have Gastelum winning this fight. I think that unless unless Adesanya is able to do something in this fight during the process of closing the distance, or unless his his takedown defense and his work from the bottom has drastically improved. And I'm not trying to paint Gastelum as, I mean, Gastelum is not Matt freaking Hughes. Okay. He's not
Right.
like the
Right.
greatest. I'm not trying to paint him as that, but he is a much better wrestler, I believe, than what Adesanya is. So we will see. We will see.
Yeah,
And,
it's it.
yeah, we'll see.
I was
We'll
gonna say I understand because this is a fight that there's a way for Gastelum to win. Clearly, we
absolutely.
both agree, and we both agree
Absolutely.
what that way is. The
Hmm.
thing that pushes me over the edge towards Adesanya is I'm looking at Gastelum's fights, and I feel like Adesanya is the best opponent he's had in a
Hmm.
long time.
Hmm.
That he hadn't lost to.
Oh, that he didn't lose to. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like in terms of people he's beat.
Hmm.
So I'm like, ugh, the guys that you beat that were similar aren't this quality level, and those fights were a long time ago. So that pushes me towards Israel.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think. Not. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be shocked if Israel Adesanya wins. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But Gastelum is just one of those guys. You know what the boxing equivalent to Gastelum is to me. The boxing equivalent to Gastelum is Danny Garcia, right? Danny
I'm gonna have to
Garcia.
take your word for
Okay. Dan-
it.
Danny Garcia is one of those guys who you look at him and you like, why is he 32-2 or whatever his record is, somewhere in that range? Why is he like, you watch him and you expect him to lose because nothing jumps out at you about him for him, but that he's special, right? And just about everybody of any caliber that he fights, you tend to think the other guy is gonna win. But somehow Danny Garcia's only lost two fights. You
Yeah, and
know,
if that was Gastelum's history, I would agree.
it
But
almost is though. It almost is
but a lot it's
on an
not though because
MMA level. On an MMA, because you get,
but
people lose more fights in MMA than they lose in boxing.
yeah, but even with that, you look at a lot of his recent wins. It's older people, people that aren't as good as Izzy, and then there's a loss. And I just feel like Israel is, the most polished,
So
athletic person.
you don't think Jacare is as good as
He's
Israel?
40 years old though.
Man,
Is he as good as 29-year-old Israel
I'm
Adesanya?
gonna tell you right now, if Jacare fights Israel Adesanya, if there's one takedown, Israel Adesanya will never stand back up. If
It
there's
might, I
one
mean, from a
takedown.
stylistic standpoint, that might be true, but we agree that Gastelum matchup wise, because of his wrestling background, isn't as at a disadvantage against Souza the way Adesanya would be. But in terms of just overall skill and quality, especially as a striker, I think he's dealing with a different beast in Adesanya that he's dealing with Souza.
Yeah, I think he is, but I think that the thing about Jacare is that Jacare is effective in both stand up. His stand up has gotten a lot better. I really wish that he had moved his training camp to Florida 5 6 years ago, where because his striking has grown exponentially since he moved his camp to Florida. I wish he had done it earlier. Um, but he's effective in both stand up and on the ground. But on the ground, he is among the greatest that ever has done it, and he's in fantastic shape. So his 40 is not everybody else's 40.
I think it is though, because in his last 7 fights, he has 3 losses, and he basically was unbeatable in like
If
the last
if you
not
look at
8 fights before that.
if you look at who he's fought and you look at the actual fights, because to be honest with you, I thought he beat Gastelum. I thought he beat Gastelum. He knocked out Chris Weidman in a fantastic fight. He lost to Robert freaking Whitaker, who is a monster. And then the other fight he lost besides that was Yoel Romero, who is another monster, and he
And that was a
lost them by
great fight.
a split decision. So
Yeah, it was a great,
yeah,
great fight. And
there's
and my thing isn't that Yakare is trash, but he's older. And it's what I said. It's what I said to you about Woodley before the Woodley fight. I'm like, once you get over the age of 36,
mhm.
every fight is a how are you aging fight.
It is.
And
It's a barometer. Is this the night?
correct,
Is this the night fight?
is this the night? And
Yeah.
so I look at it differently than if he fought Souza 4 years ago, 3 years ago, right? And Adesanya is approaching his MMA prime.
Yeah. I think I
So
think I, I think he's smack dab in it. But here's the thing. I was very like I the more I like as I discuss this, right? As I the more I discuss Adesanya, the more I'm realizing how unimpressed I was with the Anderson Silva fight. Because I didn't realize how unimpressed I was. But because of the way he looked in that fight, his aura of invincibility, and of course, obviously, I'm just
Well,
using that
that's what I
term.
said in the opener,
I, I'm, I'm
right? Is
I'm
that
just using that
I
term, but nobody's truly invincible.
no, I know
But
what you mean. The
that
aura. You
whole
said the aura of.
that whole thing, right? It doesn't look as strong to me. And
But see, and this is exactly my point, though.
mhm,
I agree with you, and that's what I said in the opener. That you look at the Anderson Silva fight, and you can see some holes in his game. You know, and you look at other fights with the Silva fight in your mind, and you're like, you look at them a little bit differently. He's not this. He's not John Jones, what I said in the beginning, right? He's
yeah,
not some
oh,
guy that I'm like,
he's
however
not.
can he be beat? I see a path to victory. But even with that, and it's almost especially because of the Silva fight, he was the Silva fight was what it was because Adesanya got hit a few times and fell back on his intelligence.
Hmm.
And
I
that's
think
from his
I think he got scared to get embarrassed.
well again fell back on his intelligence
Hmm.
because once he was aware that he could be embarrassed, he's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm not going to be the guy that got beat by 43-year-old Anderson Silva for his first loss."
No. Yep.
But and which
I would
means it's
agree.
on the table,
I would agree.
right?
I would agree.
And so Anderson hit him a couple of times, and he was very open about this. He said, "I didn't see where they were coming from. So once I know you have that ability, I'm going to fight you to win."
Yeah.
That
And
haven't been.
you know who did the same thing? Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier, when Daniel Cormier fought Anderson Silva,
Mhm.
he fought him because John Jones had popped
Yeah.
and he couldn't fight. And so he got pulled off the table. This was UFC 200. It was the Brock Lesnar
Hmm.
mark. It was that same card. And uh, Anderson Silva caught Daniel Cormier with a couple shots. Wop, 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 wop. And at first Daniel Cormier was fighting him in a very respectful manner, right?
Right.
If that's even possible. But once he got caught a couple times, he said, "Oh no, you going on your back, old man."
Right.
And
Right.
boom,
Forget this. I ain't playing that game with you.
it's wrestling time. It's wrestling
Yeah.
time
And
because that
Israel's version of that is to snipe.
yeah. Hmm.
And so my thing with Gastelum, I believe a if Gastelum's at his best, if he's the best Gastelum we've ever seen, then he can do what you're saying.
Hmm.
But I haven't seen evidence of the kind of guy of the Cormier really who can say, you know what, I'm wrestling this. I ain't gonna stand out here and get picked at all day.
See, that's why I give Gastelum. That's why I think he can win, and that's why I think he will win. Because when you go to fall back on your bread and butter, if your bread and butter is wrestling, you have a much better chance of winning because wrestling is like the MMA equivalent of speed in baseball.
Yeah.
Speed is never in a slump.
Hmm.
If you fast, you fast. It doesn't matter if you're putting the bat on the ball well. If things are going bad and you can't get a hit, you can lay a bunt down because you can try to beat it out and get to first base that way. Wrestling is the
Which I
closest
noticed your
thing
Barry
to that.
Bonds wasn't able to do.
See, here's the problem. Here's the problem. You have a bunt rating in the show, and I could not give Barry Bonds a high bunt rating because that would not be realistic. And
I'm
you know
talking
how
about
I am.
how many times you got on first base and didn't make it to second.
What? No, I didn't get on first base a lot. That's the problem. That's the problem.
So who we got? So we basically agree on this fight. We just have a different perspective on it.
No, we don't. I think I got Gastelum. You have Adesanya.
No, what I'm saying is we agree on how each person wins. We
Yeah.
agree on what the matchup is. It's just a matter of in the coin flip, what's more likely. You think it's more likely that Gastelum rushes him down. I think it's more likely that Israel is able to force Gastelum to be conservative, find a way in, and that if him spending that time finding a way in and not taking damage is a decision in Izzy's favor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked, but we'll
Yeah,
have to
but
see.
we agree. We making different picks, but we agree on the matchup.
Right. The way it has to happen is just
Yeah,
the
yeah,
different result. So all right. So blah, 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 blah. All right, main event. So
yes,
we forgot to mention that fight is for the interim middleweight title, and it's being fought for the
right.
interim middleweight title because Robert Whitaker is out with the abdominal issue.
Hmm.
So whoever wins this fight will fight Robert Whitaker later in the year. So there's that. So all right, so the next fight is a interim lightweight title fight between, and the reason why that championship is a bit on the shelf is because of what we've been talking about with the brawl with McGregor and her Habib Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov is not eligible to come back into September, so he can't defend his title before then. If you have this fight now in April, you give whoever wins this fight 5 months to prepare, to recover and repair for Habib in September. So that's why this works. There's also on the table that Habib could fight Tony Ferguson, which this fight has been scheduled 4 times already. Somebody gets hurt or something. The last time it was scheduled, Tony Ferguson fell on a stage, back on a
Yeah, that
stage
was
at a
crazy.
press conference and tore his ACL and could not fight. So it's like God,
Cursed.
it's like God don't want them to fight. It's just like it's crazy. It's something going on. I don't know what's going on, but it's been it's been so many times that this fight has been signed. As a matter of fact, the last time it was canceled, Dana White said, "I am not scheduling this fight again." So we'll see what happens. But Tony Ferguson has been having some personal issues, but he has been recently cleared to compete. So he's supposedly ready, and he supposedly wants Nurmagomedov. And you can make a strong case that he deserves a title shot even more than this winner.
Yeah, in the octagon, he's earned it. Obviously, he's been dealing with what seems like some anxiety stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
so some sort of personal issue going on. Is
yeah,
seemed got like it got kind of scary.
but
So
I hear that he's like you said, he's back on the up and up. So
yeah.
this fight, who you got?
Um, I got Holloway. I got Holloway. I got Holloway. I I just think that Max is Max. I think Max has the most impenetrable stand-up game of any fighter in the sport right now.
Hmm.
I think that, and it's so funny because if you watch Max, it really doesn't look like there's anything, oh my God, glamours and lights going on with the striking game. He literally squares with the left foot in front of the right foot. He keeps his hands high, and his reflexes are so good for parrying and countering with straight shots. You very rarely see Max Holloway throw anything that's not straight. And he just breaks guys down with constant pressure and straight, accurate strikes. Doesn't lift his foot off the ground much. It's really crazy. But and you see these high level wrestlers sometimes. I mean, he doesn't fight that many high level wrestlers, but you see guys like Brian Ortega just incapable of getting the fight to the ground. Brian Ortega is one of the freakiest submission guys you're gonna ever find. I mean, insane. Is it's it But trying to penetrate Max's stand-up game is to me, it's one of the like 3 to 4 most difficult things to do in MMA today. And I just don't. And now Dustin Poirier is a really good wrestler, and he's a very smart fighter.
Hmm.
And he beat Max 7 years ago via submission, but that was baby Max.
Right.
That's not this guy
No,
today.
for the audience playing at home, Max hasn't lost a fight since LeBron was on the Heat. Which, for clarity.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's been a long time.
obviously, I need to see it before I see it, and until Connor comes back and fights Max Holloway, there's nobody
Oh my
or
God. You don't know how much I would love to see that fight.
yeah, yeah. So
I
in that
mean,
sense, I would like to see Max win. We don't talk about rooting a lot, but I think in terms of the division, if Max is good enough to win this fight, because Poirier's no
now
slouch.
Connor beat Max already too though, but that
Yeah, he
was
beat
young.
both of them
Yeah,
though.
that was Max. That was young Max.
He beat both of them though.
Yeah, he beat Poirier too. Yeah.
Yeah. So Poirier is a worthy opponent.
Hmm.
But if Max does beat him, and if he handles him, then Max is in the discussion, and we're having a four-way discussion in this division, and it's suddenly become possibly the most interesting division in the UFC.
And some people
Once
would make
Conor gets back.
some people would make the argument that it already is. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I just think that Poirier is someone that I have seen overcome with strikes. like overcome with with his opponent's volume and being rendered to a point where he's unable to answer, right? Um, and I can just see that happening with Holloway.
Yeah.
He needs to take him down. He needs to take him down, but needing to take him down is like needing to win the lottery, but you can't quite find the numbers, you know. So yeah, I got Holloway, and the crazy thing is this: Holloway's moving up a division.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't even mention that in my assessment of the matchup. He's moving up a division. Poirier moved up from the division as well because he started off at 145, but he's been in it at 155, settled in. This is
Hmm.
Holloway's first fight at 155. So this is interesting and significant, man. But I do think Holloway wins. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I I don't know what fight like Dana's going to give that fight to Holloway. If Holloway beats Poirier, he's going to give Holloway Nurmagomedov. He is.
Hmm.
He is. And he's going to probably try to book Connor against Tony Ferguson.
Against Tony, which makes sense.
With that's what, but I honestly think that Tony deserves it. Tony, if you want to do it right, Tony deserves it.
The issue is if I'm Dana and I'm thinking Tony does deserve it, I want Tony to have ample time to get well for a championship fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that fight wouldn't happen. I think ideally they might want it to happen on the same card. You know, they might want it to happen on the same card because, and that's a mess in itself, dude. I don't even know if I want Conor McGregor's people in the building with Habib Nurmagomedov's people.
yeah, seriously, I agree with you there.
I don't even know if I want that. So, because to be honest, I never want to see them fight again. Never.
No, there's no reason to.
I never want to see him fight again, and it ain't even because of that. I don't want to see him fight again because I don't think that those two elements can coexist without something horrible happening.
Yeah, because they got to do weigh-ins and press
Yeah,
conferences
I
and
don't.
all that.
Yeah, I
And
just
yeah,
don't think it.
I think Habib is unreachable in that. I think Connor's always selling something.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but Connor's officially retired right now.
No,
So
he can't. He came back.
is he back now?
It was 2 days later. It was 2 days later. He said, "See you in the octagon." It was right after he posted that tweet, making fun of Habib's religion. And then deleted the tweet real quick because he got hold of some of Habib's wedding pictures, and so he's a Muslim, and his wife had her face covered, and I guess the texture of the veil kind of thought looked like a towel. He was like, Habib is marrying a towel. And then he's like, he came back later after that and said, there's a goat under that towel. And so, and see, this is what I'm talking about, man. This is what I'm talking about in terms of bad press, horrible things that you're doing and saying. At some point, I mean, this is all, dude. Those two things I just said, the phone incident.
Well, I think Connor has plenty of bad press. I just don't
Yeah,
think that
but
it makes
he's the
people.
face of the UFC though.
I mean, I think he's the most popular person associated with it. I think right now there's an argument to be made that John is definitely,
Yeah, I don't
face of the
think
UFC.
I don't think that's an argument at all.
I think Connor's a car crash. Everybody shows up to see it, no matter what.
Exactly. But at some point, the people in the car crash die. And if you keep allowing yourself to be a passenger, at some point you can be affected too. And Connor, I wrote this article. I wrote exactly the headline of the article is that the UFC needs to craft itself a future that does not include Connor because because the dude is self-destructive.
Well, I think
And
that's what the ESPN deal does, though, is
yeah, I
you're
hope so.
gaining
I
all
hope
of these
so.
new audience, but not to tread over that topic, but yeah, I got Holloway too. I think it's great for the division. I hope Connor can come in and stop messing around with all this foolishness because honestly, I don't even want to see him fight Habib. He doesn't deserve a rematch off of that fight.
I barely want to see him fight, period, bro. To be honest, I'm at a point.
I understand that, but even
Yeah,
from just a matchup standpoint, Habib absolutely dominated you.
yeah.
I need to see you fight the competition now. Like when you get your butt beat that bad, you
Yeah.
get bumped down to contender status again.
Yeah.
You don't get number one contender fight the champion again.
And
That
I
that
and
belongs to Tony.
and you know what else?
And if Max wins, it belongs to Max.
And you know what else? There's about 3 or 4 guys that I know for a fact that will beat the brakes off Connor.
Yeah, he needs to fight them. And I
And
think
yeah.
that'll be great because his popularity will pass over to, it'll get disseminated amongst other people. And they might not reach his peaks. But again, if you have, four more fighters with plus 20% of Connor's popularity,
Mhm.
that's four more shows. And this is why I go back to the TV show versus movie thing.
Mhm.
TV shows look for different things in a star than
Mhm.
a movie.
Mhm.
Movie, you need, Chris Evans and Denzel Washington and Brad Pitt. TV show, you can get Christopher Walken to show up for an episode and get him out of here. Thanks, Christopher, for the views. Get
That's
up
my
on out of
dog.
here. We got another show to do next
Hey,
week.
Christopher Walken is my dog, man. That's one of my favorite
Well,
actors ever.
that's why I brought him up.
He's awesome, man.
You act like I slandered him. I just gave him credit.
No, yeah, he's my. But you did kind of put him on the TV level. You made him. You
No,
didn't
I
give.
said if he's a big deal if he comes to TV because
Yeah,
there's a
but he
lot of shows.
ain't a big deal in the movies, though.
No, that's math. That ain't me.
Oh man, dang! Wow.
So, are we ready to talk NBA playoffs?
Oh, that's not even on the list.
It's not on the list.
No,
All
it's
right,
not.
sorry guys. I guess we're not talking NBA playoffs before they start.
Nelson sucks. Nelson
So, what have
sucks.
you guys got for Ask Us, bro?
Exactly.
Ask us about the playoffs.
All right. So 1989 says we're going into Ask Us Bro, guys, because Nelson just ruined the show. So let's talk about it. 1989 says, do you think that the 2K League would have more success if they could implement some of their popular personalities like Chris Smooth, Cash Nasty in like ambassadors or even announcers? I do think that would give them a little bit of a spike. They're not 2K League personalities. They're people associated with 2K. I don't think they should be announcers because they're not good at it. And that's going to be, honestly, they would just hurt themselves by doing that because they would just get a lot of people that hated them because you can't just show up and talk about, oh, I'm a shoutcaster. No, it's a skill. You have to be good at it, and that's not their thing. But I do think there are little spots and things that they could do, appearances and videos that they could post, maybe post a highlight. Like if the 2K League paid Chris Smooth to do their highlights the same way he does the NBA highlights, I think that would help them a lot. I think that would be a really smart move for them. Oh, Fab Splash. I mean, I think that people would start watching
They're
it.
like
That would,
Shakedown doing a top 10 plays of the week for the
yeah,
2K League
I think
is
that would
worth
help.
the price of commission.
It is absolutely. You know what? That's a good pitch. Somebody needs to pitch that on their behalf. And if I can get cut in and get paid for a finder's fee, I might do it.
you found Shakedown?
No, it's the link. It's the link. Sometimes you get paid to be the link. But yeah, I think that would help. But I don't think that you don't want them on like every broadcast.
Yeah, them playing it. First of all, they'd make much less money than they make right now, so they're not going to do that.
No, I don't think he meant that. He says if they could implement some of their popular personalities. I think he meant just like similar in the functions that we were just talking about. I don't think.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, like that, it would help. I mean, honestly, anything would help.
Boy, you're a low down dude. Boy, you just kick these people.
I'm trying to help. We have an entire show dedicated to helping the 2K League find its way.
Boy,
how's that negative?
You be kicking people. Take this, sucker. You only got 3,000 views as it is. Eat that, sucker.
I gave him 4,000. You made me look it up.
Man.
And now where are we?
It's nasty out here, boy. I'm trying to tell you. All right. So 1989 also says with Dirk and Wade retiring and looking at the league in this decade, would you say we have the most Hall of Famers or potential Hall of Famers in the league at one time, or has talent kind of been watered down? I think there's a lot of Hall of Famers in the league right now. I think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people right now in the league that if they didn't play another game, they didn't take another jump shot, they're already Hall of Famers. Like, I mean, Golden State has 3 of them who don't have to take another shot, and it's automatic, And
I would say 4. I mean, Draymond definitely.
Yeah,
he gets on there. He got a Defensive Player of the Year. So
Yeah, he does.
between Defensive Player of the Year, All Star, all them
But see,
championships,
I think you could make a debate against him. You cannot make a debate against Clay, Steph, and KD. There's you
I
there's no
I
logical
agree that you
debate that can be
can't
made.
debate them. I think it's only a debate against Draymond if you say first ballot. You know,
Yeah.
because best defensive player on multiple championship teams should automatically be in. That's no question.
Yeah, I don't know,
And
man.
he led the team in assists a few of those years too. So
He did?
I think so.
I
Pretty
don't.
sure.
I know
In
he was.
first or second.
I know he was at least second. He was at least second.
Yeah.
I think he's been second probably every year.
Which again, if a guy is on a championship team and he leads them in defense and assists, are we only rewarding scoring all of a sudden? Like,
No, I don't think it's that. I just think that he is such a um such a modest scorer that usually when you're a scorer as modest as him, you need to have another statistical category where you are truly amazing. And he doesn't really have that. Now, I will give him the 16-17 season, he led the league in steals. That's pretty significant.
well, again, he has a depoy, and he was the reason that Golden State could be the best defensive team in the league because they could switch everything. And his ability to switch all five positions at a very high level was why they were so great. And honestly, the only reason LeBron got the championship that he got off of him. If
Yeah.
he doesn't get suspended, they don't win that series.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that for the most part. I do agree with
yeah, I
that.
honestly, and I'm not a big Draymond Green fan.
Yeah.
But I strongly resist any conversation with Draymond Green's not a Hall of Famer because watching their team, he was an integral part and their defensive leader, unquestionably.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. And I also
So
think that he is, but I think there's a lot of people in history who had a similar style of a similar stat line, similar list of accomplishments, right? Who are not in or
when you
may
say similar list of accomplishments to the Warriors' level of success, though, because the
that see
Warriors
that
have been
that's where it
dominating
gets
for a long time.
that
That's why I bring it up.
yeah, that no, I'm saying that's where it gets a little bit. That's where it kind of leans more in, leans more towards him because if you factor in the team success, then it starts to get a little like that. I mean, obviously you have to factor in the team success. You can't leave that out. But I don't know. I still think it's debatable. I still think it's
Well,
debatable.
I'm telling you, I don't like a debate where the best defensive player on a championship team year after year after year is doesn't get into the Hall of Fame. I think that is a
Well,
very, very bad direction for us to go to reward empty scoring so often and not reward championship defense when especially when it was integral. It's not like he's just a shot blocker. He's a pick and roll switch guy making defensive calls. He's like the Ray Rice of that team throughout their championship run. And
the
also
who?
noted
The who of that team?
not I'm sorry. Not Ray Rice. What's his name? Baltimore Ravens.
He
Why is
is
his
the
name escaping
dude
me?
most likely to punch his wife in the elevator.
Hey, you said that, not me. You out here. This is the second wife beater conversation you just started.
You said Ray
Ray Rice has done other things.
That is funny. Oh no, yeah, no, he's not the Ray Rice. He's not the Ray
No,
Rice.
but you know what I mean.
I know. I don't. I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Oh my God, I'm talking about. Hold on, Jesus Christ. I don't know why my memory is going crazy.
Ray Rice.
Ray Lewis, Jesus Christ.
Okay. Another
Ray
wrong Ray.
Lewis. I don't know why
Another
his
Ray.
last name was escaping.
Another Ray.
And the funny thing, you know what the funny thing is? I've watched 30, 40, 50 Ray Lewis games.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that much of Ray Rice.
Right.
Like, I haven't watched that much Ray Rice.
He made an impression on you.
That's not the video of him that I saw the most. It wasn't him playing football.
Oh my God. But I actually don't think that's a good analogy at all. Ray Rice was the absolute unquestioned superstar of his team. There was nobody on his level. Nobody.
No, but in the NBA, whenever someone is the defensive caller, they say like a Ray Rice. So like a
Ray
Kevin
Lewis.
Garnett, Ray
Yeah.
Lewis. I did it again. I'm
Stop
gonna
it.
do it all day.
Stop
You
it.
know, I did this for 2 years where I called Steph Curry Seth Curry, even
Yeah.
though I had never seen Seth Curry play at the time. I don't know why I did it. It was just a thing I like to do.
Your mama should have
But
named you Seth. I know it.
slow down. I think now you've had too much fun.
you
But yeah,
told
no. If
you
you
told
if you
him his
if you
mama
take
should have
if you
named
take
him Seth.
Draymond Green out the Hall of Fame, I don't trust your basketball IQ. I'm gonna go that hard with it. I think that's
Wow.
ridiculous.
Wow. Well, if you call Ray Lewis Ray Rice, I don't trust your memory. So
That's fair. Totally fair. You can challenge my memory anytime today. Feel free.
okay. Let's see. Seeing 1989 says, seeing Melo with CP3, LeBron, and Wade has Melo fallen into kind of being a bust or one of the most overrated players ever, considering how he was seen on the same level as LeBron. I don't think he was ever really seen on the same level as LeBron. I think he was always the second, thought to be like the second best guy. And then over time, we realized that was actually Wade from that draft. Um, but I definitely think that with the success of LeBron and Wade, and the way that like Chris Paul has aged better than him, even though he doesn't have any championships either, but the fact that he's aged better than Melo, and just in terms of being able to stick on a team, the fact that Melo is like the same age as LeBron, and he literally was out of the league this year because nobody wanted him. Yeah, that's pretty. That's
I
yeah,
don't know if that's 100% true. I saw reports that Melo had gotten offers to play on certain teams and didn't want to play on those teams.
yeah. But I mean, think about. I mean, that's still a if you in comparison to his contemporaries, that
It's
that
that's it's an interesting thing. I do think Melo's overrated first and foremost. But I'm not sure if this year has been fair to Melo because on the court I saw at worst a sixth man, off the bench, 15 to 18 points a game guy, depending on what team and system he goes to. And there are teams that I look at and I'm like, yeah, they could use a Melo. They could use a Melo. I don't know why he was drummed out of the league, basically. I
yeah.
can't figure that out.
Yeah, that's that. If that all that does feel a little
Yeah, it's too fit,
drastic.
and I think Melo's overrated. I do. I think Melo has been considered the best offensive player in the game when he was never close to the best offensive player in the game. I don't think Melo was ever as good as a Kevin Durant. I actually think LeBron James is a better offensive player than Melo. And I think he's way better now. With
Mm.
the healthy with the skill set that he's gotten. But I thought there were a bunch of players who were better offensively than Melo. I thought Melo was more of a
See, this is exactly the point that you're making right now is the same point that I was making about what you were saying about how players were talking about Kobe, right? Because the biggest proponents for Carmelo are players. The people who talk the most and give Melo the most respect are players. They know they don't care anything about the bad shooting percentages they don't care anything about that. Melo gets absolute respect from players, and so that's why I was saying when you were bringing up that about Kobe, I hear you that the players are they're giving him this respect. Well, those same guys, that same group, gives Melo almost the same level of respect.
no. They don't give Melo the same. Nobody thinks Melo is better than Kobe
No,
Bryant.
no, 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 no,
No
no,
one
no,
thinks
no,
that.
no, 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 no. I didn't. No, that's not what I'm
Melo's
saying.
not in
No,
anybody's
no,
conversation
no,
for the greatest.
no. That's not what.
He's.
No.
I don't think I've ever heard somebody say he's you know, the
I've
person I fear
I've
playing
heard
the most.
I've
I've heard people say he's the toughest person to guard, but
toughest
there's a
guy.
specific reason for that.
That's the same thing that you said about
People have said that
Kobe.
about no, people have said that about Ginobili. There's a difference between saying this is the person I like to face the least, and this is the person I have the toughest to guard. Because when it comes to toughest to guard personally, that has to do with a physical matchup. You know what I'm
But
saying? So with
the
Melo,
point,
you're not saying with Melo, you just say Draymond. I don't feel like dealing with that all day. He's too strong for me. That's the toughest you had to guard. When you say the person you least to face, like you wanted to face the least, that's I got to play this guy tomorrow. every time I play him, he gives me hell, blah, blah, blah. That's not an individual matchup
That
thing
almost
only. And
sounds like that almost sounds like a two different worded definitions for the same
it's
thing.
not two different word definitions because Kobe says the most difficult player he had to face was Tracy McGrady. He said he was me, but he was taller. But when you ask him who was the toughest player he guarded, he's like Melo is the guy who punished me the most physically. You know what I'm saying? So I think you're taking that, which a lot of people agree with, and conflating it with Kobe, which is all my career, the last person I wanted to see on the schedule was Kobe Bryant. It's two different things. People aren't saying that particularly about Melo.
I guess what my point is, there are players who are singing Melo's praises in some way, shape, or form, right? And I think that you think, and you're saying that you think that Melo is overrated, right? And I said the same thing in some ways about Kobe, not as much as Melo. And I'm not saying that Kobe's not a greater player than Melo. He is by far and away. But what I'm saying is, I bring that point up to say that you cannot always just say or throw that out as a validator that, well, the players say it. The players say a
Well,
lot of things that I
If
don't
Kobe
agree with.
didn't have 5 rings, go to the finals 4 times in a row, and then 3 times in a row, and have all of the accolades that he had, first team, all defensive, Olympic gold medals, all that other stuff, I would agree with you if he didn't have the accomplishments to back it up. Melo doesn't, which is why he's overrated. If Melo had all those things and exactly the same game eye test wise, we would be having a different conversation because he's accomplished so much.
Well,
Melo's
yeah.
accomplished absolutely nothing in his career
Well,
for the relativity of his talent class,
I'm not
which is
like I
why
said,
he's overrated.
like I'm saying, I'm not comparing Melo and saying he's as good as Kobe. Again, I'm not saying that. What I'm
You're
saying is
saying he's as bad as Kobe relative to what people think of him.
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's you cannot use player opinions of other players and say use that as a validator to support a point, because they're going to say things all the time that you don't that just because players said it doesn't make it true. So my thing is, we're both saying that Carmelo is not the guy that players seem to. We don't think that he's the guy that players make him out to be. Players talk about Melo in high esteem. I can almost guarantee you that if you went to players in his during his era and said who are the top 5 players in the league, I would almost guarantee you that almost all of them would say he is in the top 5 players in the league
Right now,
during that his whole time, his whole like that during his career.
well,
Like
the
you were
thing about
saying,
it
you're
is,
saying that you think
during
he's
his
overrated.
career,
You're saying you think
no,
he's overrated.
well, here's the thing. During his career, there are times where that has been a valid opinion. Now, I think that that
Well,
opinion
then
is
how is he
wrong.
overrated then?
Hold on. I think it's wrong, but I don't think it's invalid during his career. You know what I'm saying? When the guy's averaging 25, 26 points, scoring outside, scoring inside, you can't guard his shot. He has an excellent first step and he's stronger than you. I get why they say that. And Carmelo in his prime was an absolute handful. I just think that Kevin Durant is more of a handful. And I think that people took what Carmelo was too far. I think Carmelo is overrated because people said at times that he was the best offensive player in the league, and I never thought that was true. That's specifically why I thought he was overrated. And it wasn't players who were saying that from my from my reference. My reference is people like Stephen A and stuff like that saying it. I'm not saying no player said it. I'm saying reporters and analysts also said they think Carmelo Anthony is the best offensive player in the league. And I think that was their lazy way of describing Carmelo without taking credit away from him, but acknowledging the fact that he don't play no defense. I always thought that Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, and later on Steph Curry were better offensive players than Carmelo Anthony. But if you felt that way, I could understand why, because he had versatility. At his height, he had a quick first step and was the strongest player at his position and didn't have terrible hops,
No,
right?
he didn't.
And
He was a handful as an offensive player.
and had an unguardable jump shot. Carmelo was unguardable in his heyday. But I still think he was I think you can be unguardable and the rest of your game leads up to you being overrated still. So I don't think players are wrong for at the time that he was at his height. feeling the way they felt, particularly if they were the ones that had to guard him. But there's more to the game than that, and that panned out with his accomplishments, which is the main thing.
Yeah, I
He
don't know.
never beat those guys. He had the
I
chance to beat those guys. He never did that.
I don't know that. I always talk about that, how that can't really be a apples to apples comparison, because we can't change the fact that Kobe played with Shaq. We just can't. We can't change that. That happened, and that was a humongous reason why he won so much. And so, um,
If
there's only
Carmelo
there's only one
had
Shaq.
2 championships and a finals loss to the Boston Celtics with the big three, we would look at him differently. If Shaqless Kobe Bryant is still way better than Carmelo Anthony.
I would like to see. I mean, Gasol-less. I mean,
Carmelo has played with
what
teammates who were as good as Pau Gasol.
who?
He played with Allen Iverson, Chauncey Billups.
Oh, come on, bro. Allen Iverson, the 30-year-old Allen Iverson,
Allen Iverson was averaging 25 points per
who
game.
admittedly had an alcohol problem at the time. Admittedly, dude, their players and referees are saying he's on the court and the alcohol is reeking off of him during the Denver years.
He was averaging 25 points per game.
He was averaging, but we both know
he played with Chauncey Billups.
We both
Chauncey
know
Billups was excellent at that time.
Chauncey Billups is as good as Pau Gasol.
I think if Kobe Bryant played with Chauncey Billups, the years that he played with Chauncey Billups, he would have had an excellent chance to win a championship. I think Chauncey Billups would have been a phenomenal player to pair with Kobe Bryant. Phenomenal.
And Chauncey was older when
you
he played
give
with
me
Melo.
Chauncey, Kobe, Lamar Odom, and Andrew Bynum instead of Pau Gasol, and you give me some, just some decent forward who's like solid and plays D and get a shot.
They don't win.
I think that team gives.
They don't win. They don't win.
I
think you underselling Pau. I think you're underselling Pau.
I'm not underselling Pau. I think Pau is a very, very good player. But to look at Pau and say he's the reason Kobe got
no. I didn't say that.
Crazy.
I never said that. I said that that's a big factor.
Like when Melo was playing with Amari was beasting in New York. And he
did
have some back
already
injuries.
hurt himself. He had already hurt himself, and he wasn't.
There was a time they were playing together.
He never played with him. He never played with Amari when Amari was that Phoenix Suns Amari. He never played with that guy.
Amari, when he came to New York, was amazing, and there was a time when Carmelo was here that it just wasn't quite working for some reason. And it's because Carmelo's not as good. Again, same thing. If you give me the team with Tyson Chandler and Jason Kidd and Amari Stoudemire, and you just give me Kobe Bryant instead of Carmelo Anthony, they go farther in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see what happens with Melo and Shaq. I'd like to see what happens. I'm not saying it's the same thing.
Everybody wants to put Shaq with every other player. Shaq in his prime only won with Kobe Bryant.
I like to see. Well, I mean, Shaq with Miami wasn't his prime. He wasn't his prime, but he was really good. He was really good.
We all agree that Dwayne Wade's performance was one of the greatest finals performances of all time.
Absolutely, but
nobody want to take that championship away from Shaq.
But that big dude was still down there.
So let me ask you something: who was better, Kobe with Shaq or Shaq with Dwayne Wade?
Who was better, Kobe with Shaq or Shaq with Dwayne Wade? I think Dwayne Wade was better.
No. Who, in terms of Shaq and Kobe?
Oh, Shaq and Kobe. Wait a minute. Oh, wait. I don't know if I understand what you're saying. Ask it again.
If you compare Shaq and Kobe, Kobe as the second to Shaq, was he better than Shaq as the second to Dwayne Wade? Who was the better second option?
Who was the better second option? Oh, definitely Kobe. Definitely, 100%.
Then why is it Shaq got 4 rings? No question. Good job, Shaq. Kobe. Oh
no, I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's Shaq got 4 rings, no problem. Give all the credit to Shaq. I don't think that at all. I think Shaq, as great as his career was, it's a little bit of a disappointment because I think it could have been better. I really think it could have been better. But my thing is, it's really hard to quantify playing and winning a championship with that guy, and you're the second option to that guy.
I don't think it's hard to quantify at all when, again, you're using second option as a generic term. But Kobe was making all first defensive teams,
He
scoring
was.
upwards of 26 points, 29 points,
He was a
5
great player.
assists,
He was a
5
great player.
rebounds. He was the main option in the fourth quarter because of Hack-a-Shaq.
He
He
was a
was
great player.
he was the point of attack against Sacramento and San Antonio several times because of the advantage that he had there.
He was
So
a great
you keep
player.
talking about him like he rode Shaq's coattails. That is
No,
absolutely not true.
I'm not talking about him as he rode Cat Shaq's coattails at all. But what I'm
And you
saying
say it
is
like
that
if Shaq
that
can't
guy
lose,
was
like
there. That
whoever you
guy,
put Shaq with, he was gonna win.
well, I at that time, at that time, that Shaq, whoever you put Shaq next to, if they were a great player, you they probably would have been in the finals.
I don't agree
Dude,
because they almost lost to Portland. They
Portland was a
almost lost to
Portland was a
Sacramento.
great team.
Exactly. So they had great teams they had to play against. We getting off track here. We
Yeah.
getting off track. Is Melo overrated? Yes, Melo's overrated. I don't think that means that he's a bad player or that he's a
Yeah,
bust.
yeah.
What it means,
I don't think that he's not. I
Melo
am
did
not
not
overrated.
adjust his game the way he needed to. What he needed to
Absolutely.
do was be a bit better of a role player defender and develop a 3-point shot. He didn't do those things.
Well,
Theoretically, there's still time for him to come back and have some David West years.
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but like I don't disagree. I was just making a point about using player. Uh,
But the point doesn't fly because it
it,
depends on
it
what they're
absolutely
saying
it
and who they're
absolutely
saying it
doesn't
about.
fly. It
I'm not going
absolutely
to throw
flies.
out player opinion. I'm not going to take people who play in the league and say, no matter what you say, your opinion doesn't matter to me at
And
all.
I
There's no data.
I agree. You can't do that. You cannot do that. But you exactly the same reason why it matters. It depends on the person. You threw out Stephen freaking Jackson and Kenyon Martin as people
I
to
still think that
validate what
I
a point.
first of all, I don't think Kobe Bryant needs validation, but I think Steven Jackson and Kenya Martin. The thing that I like about those guys is that they're competitors and they are guys who are known for being honest. Now they can still be wrong.
Yeah,
That's the thing. You can
yeah,
debate that they're wrong,
yeah.
but it's valid that they feel the way they feel. Then you can analyze
Well,
those feelings and
that's
what they've been through.
anybody. That's anybody in
No,
the
because
world.
sometimes it's not valid. Sometimes, like for instance, Paul Pierce thinking he better than Dwayne Wade. That's not valid.
Well, Paul Pierce, like I said, I don't agree with him, but I think he has every right to say that.
But we
I don't
all
agree with
agree
him.
that he's saying it only because of his ego, because he has great player ego. Where it's like I'm not gonna give some guy that credit. I have to believe that if
I
because
think
he's
he
talking
actually
specifically,
believes
he's
it.
talking about himself.
I think he believes it.
It's like listening to Isaiah Thomas talk about Michael Jordan. Nobody trusts him in a Michael Jordan debate. We don't trust you,
I
right?
think
And see, yeah,
I think Paul Pierce believes that. Now, I think he's wrong, but I
but
think he
he's
truly
talking
believes it.
because he's talking about himself, so we know that he's extremely biased, so we take it differently than if he was talking about something completely unrelated to himself.
I
Same
don't.
thing with Isaiah and Michael Jordan. Y'all hate each other. Y'all had a nasty feud. So when you talk about Michael versus LeBron and Kareem and Kobe, I'm not trusting your word because I know where your bias comes from. I'm not throwing player opinions out for no reason. I'm evaluating it based on the individual cases.
Yeah. I think it definitely does come as a case by case situation for sure. So, all right, Animals, which is my man, everything pro wrestling. He says, "Please give me your thoughts." I'm sure you probably did not see this, Nelson. So I'll carry the mail on this one. He says, "Please give me your thoughts on that horrible 2K $1 million challenge from WWE Games. Will this work again, or is the community burned? Rumor has it the guy has done work with WWE." Okay, so the guy is a like he calls himself the Golden Voice. He is a like a ring announcer, but he's worked at like at WWE Access events or something like that. He's never actually did like real live WWE events, but he won a challenge where he played like well, you had to beat the game on a certain level to even be eligible for it. And then after he beat the game, you have to cut a promo video because you have to kind of look the part as well and sell yourself, right? So he did that, and then he advanced on, and we had to beat two guys in order to become like the $1 million challenger for AJ Styles. So then he got a chance to play AJ Styles in the game. He wins. If he wins the match, he wins $1 million. Obviously, AJ Styles is not that good at the game. He's a professional wrestler on the road 260 days a year. So he destroys AJ Styles. So the dude has a huge personality. He is a wrestling dude. Like, I mean, so he's literally sitting there cutting promos, like he's doing it all, right? And he was annoying a lot of the crowd. They booed him and stuff. But I took it a whole different way. I took it as proof that if the WWE, if 2K were to really take a strong look at their game and to maybe take a year off and say, which is not going to happen, but to try to balance the game in a way that made it really competitive. Doesn't have to be realistic. It just needs to be competitive, right? If they were to do that, I think that this situation proved that they could launch an esport that is different than every other esport out there. Because when you try to incorporate the different things about professional wrestling with the drama and the mic work and all of that, nothing like that really exists in esports as a part of the winning losing dynamic. You know, like, no, your personality is rewarded in esports from an intangible type of a standpoint, but there isn't anything that where you're like in professional wrestling, your popularity directly results into increases in money, everything. I think that they could craft an esport out of what they have in terms of using professional wrestling. But the biggest thing, and this is a huge thing, you got to balance the game and make it a competitive game where there's a skill gap and that sort of thing. But I think this should be really motivation for that type of thing, because you could put on an esports WWE 2K pay-per-view show with the right type of personalities. Because one of the biggest things wrong with the NBA 2K league, none of those guys really know how to sell themselves or do any type of branding. None of them do. They all need help with that. They don't know how to do that. But if you're talking about wrestling guys who are required to cut promos and do all that kind of stuff, they're going to make themselves stars. And if they're good at the game as well, if you can, if your matches literally look like if it's like I'm looking at a virtual WrestleMania, and then I got these guys talking and set, I think that there's something there that can be explored. But so I didn't look at it as a dumpster fire like a lot of other people did. You have nothing to say on that, I guess.
I'll let you take it. I trust you. I trust your word on that one. I think WWE 2K is very, very far from being a spectator sport.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of people who tune in, man, to watch um people run um virtual WWE universes. Like, there's people who run virtual WWE universes, and they have a group of people who play different roles and things like that.
Define a lot of people.
Into the tens thousands, which, and if you think about it, because it's not anything that's being pushed, and it doesn't have any really um there's no real support for it from anybody that has
Do
like a lot
do
of
they
money.
tune in for the storytelling, or do they tune in for the competition?
Both both, and to me, that's why it would be unique, because when I'm in a chat for one of those types of things, you see people saying the same thing, and honestly, I don't even think it necessarily matters why they're tuning in. It's just the testing to find out if they do and if they will. So I don't know, because there's actually one particular guy, I can't remember his name, but WWE 2K actually post his episodes on their Twitter account, like whenever it drops, because he does it live too, which is crazy. But every time he does it, they post it and he gets tons of push. But it's not really being pushed like it could be if the WWE was behind it and Take Two was behind it. So just a
If I
thought.
speak anymore, we're gonna get into a 2 hour esports debate, and I'm not gonna do it. I'll
Well,
just let you rock.
yeah, I appreciate it. Sometimes you got to do that.
But the thing I want to take, because sometimes you like to go back on your statements. You said it doesn't matter why people are tuning in. I'm gonna hold that, pin that to the wall for later.
Yeah, I don't go back on my statements. I think sometimes here's that
You
that right.
said D'Angelo Russell wasn't a needle mover. I brought that up a week later. You said, "Did I say that?"
What?
See, you did it
I don't
again.
even know. I think this is your Ray Rice memory.
Okay. So when I find the footage, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when I
I
find the
think when you
footage?
find the footage, I think that what's gonna happen is you gonna realize that it's not what you said it was, and then you're gonna try to change it in mid sentence to something
Okay.
else that supports what you're
D'Angelo
talking about.
Russell was not a needle mover. Quote Brian Mazik.
Okay, I'm not saying that I didn't say that, but when did I go
Oh,
back on something?
what? Wait, what? Because you said later on. Did I say that? That was like last week. You said that.
No, I mean I don't even remember that D'Angelo Russell's not a needle mover. In what context?
You said it. I don't know what the context was. We were bringing up players. I said D'Angelo Russell, and you said, "Well, he's not a needle mover."
I don't. I would have to know what context it was. I would have to because I can't. I would have to know what context it is. I can't just say one way or the other. I'd have
It
to know.
sounded like you meant in terms of wins.
I don't. I like I said, I have to know what context. I mean, and it depends on when I said it too. I don't even know when I said it. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know. I
Well,
don't
I'm
know.
pinning that to the wall. Your
Well,
esport, it doesn't matter why people are tuning in. Okay.
yeah, it doesn't. I mean, if people are watching, they're watching. Just like
I think the opposite. I think not knowing why people are watching your game is one of the
well, I
main
think.
reasons that people fail.
See, I didn't say not. See how see you twist stuff. I didn't say not knowing is not important. I said as long as they are watching, it doesn't matter why they're watching. That's two completely different things. See
I asked
that
you why they're watching. You said it doesn't matter.
right? It doesn't. No, you said are they watching because of the stories or are they watching because of the gameplay?
Right.
And I said it doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which
If you're
one.
creating an
It
esport,
doesn't
it
matter
matters a
which
lot.
one. It doesn't matter which one. If you're giving them what they need, it doesn't matter. If
Because
you're
the
giving them
esport,
what they want, it doesn't matter.
you can't control the storytelling in the esport. You can control the competition. The storytelling happens organically out of the competition, just like in sports.
I mean that I don't think that's that I don't. You say that does I don't see how. I mean, what does that mean though? Why does that disprove anything that I said?
Because if people are tuning into a game because they like watching the storytelling presented in the game,
Hmm.
then you produce storytelling content. Competition is not reliable for storytelling content. Even though great storytelling can come out of competition,
Hmm.
it doesn't always. And the main consistent line is the level of competition. So your point about balancing would be absolutely true if people are tuning in for competition, because the better you make the competition, the more you stabilize your viewers. But if you have a viewer base that doesn't care so much about the competition as long as they're getting a level of storytelling. So a comparison I would make is sometimes viewers watch games just because either the commentators or the person presenting the game is funny. It's like, say, Shakedown or Chris Smooth doing My Career, right? That's not an indicator of 2K's ability to have an esport, because without the humor and storytelling presented by both those figures, those personalities, and the mode itself, you don't know how many viewers you're bringing over. And in the case of 2K, which is a fairly non-competitive game comparatively to other esports, but is a high viewage storytelling game, they're not translating anything but a fraction of a percentile of their viewers.
I think that the thing is that if what my statement was based on is if they're already watching, right? So if you got 50,000 people watching, and that's what your success number is. If they're already watching, and this is where my statement came from. If they're already watching, you're asking me, well, why are these 50,000 people watching? So then my retort to that is it doesn't matter why they're watching. 50,000 people are watching and they're watching consistently. I don't care if they're watching because, oh, I really think the skill gap here is just so absolutely satisfactory for my esports requirements. It doesn't matter if that's why they're watching. If they're watching because you know what? This the wrestling in here is kind of good, but I really love hearing these guys cut these promos in between the matches. It doesn't matter. That's what I mean. It doesn't matter because if us under the assumption that I was speaking on is that the viewers are already there, so it
But it matters
doesn't
for the
matter.
esport though.
Who cares about the freaking esport if the 50,000 people are there?
Was you because you said you think it has potential as an esport? You brought up the esport.
Right, exactly. So it does. You're talking about the quality of the
No, I'm
esport
talking about
in
them
terms of
getting
the camp,
viewers.
the comp, but the viewers are there. The 50 that we already established
But
in this hypothetical, the 50,000 are there. If that's
but
what you need.
but they're not. But no, because in that hypothetical, all of the people who watch any NBA 2K content should be available for the 2K League, but they're not because they're not watching for the same reason that the 2K League is built around. So if I have a WWE 2K esport and I have viewers, I need to know how many of those viewers I'm going to retain when I organize the esport.
But no, that's not the same thing. It's not an apples to apples comparison because you're talking about a segmented product in NBA 2K because it has so many different modes. So you and some people just simply are not interested in pro am style game. They're just not. They're just not interested in that. But that's not what a WWE 2K esport would be. It's not a segmented product that you can draw that
Well, I'll give
comparison
you a
on.
more direct example. There's a YouTuber with 1 million views named Maximilian. He started out in the fighting game community. He still does a lot of fighting game content. People watch Maximilian because of his personality. So Maximilian can do an entire week, and it's actually a show that he does, a week of a certain game, and that week will be, anywhere from hundreds of thousands to maybe almost 1 million views, right?
Mhm.
Of that game. The creators of that game will not retain a single percentage of Maximilian's viewer base, even though Maximilian it's a fighting game. So if fighting was happening, people were watching the fighting. He might have been even been talking about learning the characters and fighting game mechanics, things that ostensibly should all translate to the esport. But so you from game to game to game, each game has a different level of benefit that they would gain from Maximilian based on how accurately they're able to analyze why people are watching that particular segment. That's actually the most important thing to them when they create new content because the new content's not going to be exactly the same if it's an esport because you have to have competitive rules and prizes and you know
No,
all the stuff and
I
programming and the stuff that makes an esport.
I don't think that's an accurate comparison either. But this is just going down the same thing with the whole esport thing. You look at it totally different because you are a purist in that,
I'm
and
just
because
accurate.
no, you're so not accurate because essentially you change the rules as the conversation goes on to
How am I changing the rules?
whatever is going to fit your narrative is how you flip it. But it's not, and then you make definitive statements at the end of an argument, and you deem it over by making a affirming statement, but you be wrong as hell. So
What what
it's
what
not. It ain't it.
what am
That
I
ain't
wrong
it.
about here?
That's not it. Because that comparison that you just made is not the same. It's not the same. You talking about one guy who is an entertaining guy who is is playing one game and he plays this game and the game could suck, right? But they're watching it for him. So after he gets done, nobody still is interested in the sucky game because they were really just watching it for Maximilian. That's not the same thing because
Some of the games he plays are great.
you know what the constant is? The constant is Maximilian. So with the WWE 2K situation, what would be the constant? The constant is whatever it is there what is the product itself. The product's not changing because people are watching for the wrestling or they're watching for the commentary or they're watching for the promos. my statement from the very beginning is that it does not matter why the 50,000 is there. It just matters that they're there. You're saying it does matter. You need them to be there for the esport.
No, I'm saying you need to know. I'm saying it matters why they're there. If you want to create an esport out of it, then yeah, then the matter is relevant to your esport needs, whatever your esport needs are. If they're there because they just like hearing people talk over wrestling matches, they don't care who wins or who loses as long as the story goes on. You can create a product, but it won't be an esport.
But again, again, we're going into your personal definition of an esport, and you're
I don't. I'm
stating
not. I don't make
your
it. I don't
your
make up the
state.
definition of esports.
A lot of people have different definitions for an esport. There are a lot of people who say that will use the label esport differently than you will. There's
Are they?
people.
Are they being accurate?
It's that's an opinion because the esport is still an evolving term. So it's just like me saying what's hip hop and what's not hip hop. You know, I might think one particular artist dude, that ain't hip hop. We used to say that all the time in high school. We used to say that all the time, dude. Oh man, that's this guy. He ain't hip hop. You can't
It's more like when you delineate the difference between rap and poetry. Poetry has a hard definition, and rap as a music form has a hard definition. And where you separate that has a historical reference to rely upon.
But do you
Esports,
realize that not every person would agree with that statement? But you'll say that well,
well,
they're
they
not
won't agree
accurate.
where the lines lie, but the lines are established. What I'm asking you about the esport, what definition besides video game competition do you have for esports?
Say that again.
What definition besides video game competition do you have for esports?
Esports, in my definition, is that it is a competition that is conducted on a video game, which is a
That people watch, of course,
that
right?
people. I mean, even I don't know there's a definition that says there has to be a requisite amount of viewers.
But there have to be viewers.
It's a spectator sport. Yes,
Because if me and you play Street Fighter together, it's not an esport. If me and you organize a prize pool and people watch us play, then it is an esport.
and people watch us play. Yeah, so it has to have an audience. Yes, for sure.
Right. So we agree on the definition of the esport.
Right. I mean,
So
I suppose in that sense,
if
sense,
people
yeah.
are watching, this is hypothetical, but if people are watching something because of its glorified my career qualities, its glorified creatively qualities, I'm not saying that this is what you're saying. I'm just saying hypothetically, but it also has a competitive element, and you try to make an esport out of it, that esport's going to fail because people only want to watch the story. They don't care about watching people compete. They just want to watch you play make believe.
But see, I guess the whole point is what I'm saying is we're already past that, right? In this hypothetical, we're already past that. The hypothetical that was presented is that the people are already there. The retention is already there.
What are
That
they watching though? Is this a tournament with like prize money and stuff?
they're watching it has to be unique for the WWE. So it's a whole season essentially that runs just like the WWE. Everything leads up to WrestleMania. Each one of the pay-per-views are arranged almost like a tournament. And my whole point is that this is extremely unique. And that was my point initially, is that it can create a unique take on esports that doesn't really exist. But the competitiveness is still there, but the arrangements, the way the tournaments are set up, there would only be some tournaments here or there. But the way all of this whole structure is set up is different than everything that's out there, which was my point initially. But yes, you go through. So the pay-per-views are these major, are the equivalent of almost tournaments, even though it might not function in a tournament format. But is the equivalent of that. It's a major event that people are watching the same way with the equivalents of the Raw and the SmackDowns. But the on top of that, you have like a competition that is based on the way people present or cut their own promos. And that competition is judged by the audience feedback. The audience, how much people, because people are literally choosing which characters they're a fan of, the same way they do in regular wrestling, in actually professional wrestling. So I am um, I'm an outside the box thinker. I don't, I like to create different layers. Whether
Outside the dictionary.
yeah, well, well, the Nelsonary. I'm probably outside the Nelsonary.
I mean, we all know what a sport is. A sport is hardcore winner and loser, and that's in fact that's why I always look at the MVP thing as like I feel kind of funny about the MVP award because it's not really competitive. It's left up to people's subjective judgment, and I look at that very differently than something people actually earned,
But
as
see,
in
I think
you couldn't take it away from them.
I
You know,
think the
they
thing of it
won.
is, I think the thing of it is that you you throw out these things as if they are absolute, but they are really your opinion.
You agreed with my opinion on what the definition of an esport was.
In that sense, yes, but it's not. I'm not willing to put the shackles on the concept in the way. Oh, because you're in a sense, if something doesn't hit this little line of that, oh, that's not an esport. Like you are the biggest esports snob I've ever seen in my life.
I'm not a snob. I'm just
You are the
here.
biggest esports snob. You will turn your nose up and say,
No,
that
here's
is
here. It's
not
not
an
about.
esport.
Here's the thing. It's not about whether I like it or not. It's not about whether I think it's great or not, or whether I think it can be successful or not. What it is when you have an esport, and that's your definition. There are models of success that you can rely upon based on the models of success of all competition. Right? People didn't invent this stuff with esports.
Well, a
It's
lot of people don't think that professional wrestling itself is competitive. They don't.
well, it's not a sport.
It's not a sport. It's not a
A
sport.
dance contest is competitive, but it's not a sport.
Professional wrestling is not a sport because the outcomes are already determined. They're scripted outcomes. Okay. The outcomes of this, what I'm talking about, is not already predetermined.
Well, here's the thing with wrestling. The outcome is not the win and loss of the match, right? The outcome is really who gets pushed and who doesn't. And the reason that that is competitive, but not some kind of weird personality sport, is because no matter how well someone does, if Vince McMahon doesn't like them, he can just turn the light off on them.
Yeah, that's true.
It's and no one can do anything about it. There's no competitive standard stopping judgment, opinion, and personality from taking over. That's why wrestling's not truly competitive. There's a competitive aspect to it because you're fighting for the crowd and all that stuff. But it's not truly competitive because there's an arbiter who can come in without breaking the rules of WWE and cancel the competition in favor of what he wants.
Yeah, but we only. I mean, the professional wrestling is not just the WWE. There's other. So he
Yeah, but that
doesn't.
can happen in any professional
Yeah, in
wrestling
in in
league.
any in any professional promotion, if you don't get a push, you will never get reach your true level of popularity. But to me, that's why this what I'm my concept is one that is so unique, I feel, and it has a way that it could work because you're implementing elements of all of these different things, traditional competitions, traditional tournament competitions, as well as the kind of just the drama aspects of professional wrestling. And you're creating a competition in several different layers in several different places. So, but this is probably not anything for a traditional hardcore esports person. But I don't think that's because that's the case that that it should be you should have to divorce from the term, period. I don't think anybody owns the term where they can slap a label on and off of what is and isn't esports. I think honestly that's a very limiting type of a way of thought for the overall industry, period. There's a lot of sports that initially, or a lot of games that weren't initially accepted into the East, and some games still. I mean, like some people think Call of Duty is trash. Like some people think it's just, they think it's
But
trash.
you're arguing quality. I'm arguing definition, and the reason I'm arguing
Well, I've heard
definition.
people say that about Call of Duty too, because they, just the shooting is not as on point as it is in some of the other games. Well, not so much Black Ops 4, but in the previous ones.
Right, but
You know.
but I can debunk that argument though, because
Mhm,
the way you debunk that argument is the rules of competition decide the winner and the loser. So you can say you don't like those rules, you can
mhm,
say those rules are trash, but it still qualifies if enough people are watching these people compete and
mhm,
nothing besides their skill is
mhm.
deciding who's the winner and the loser. So it
Exactly.
gets counted as a sport.
Exactly.
And I'm not defining that. That's the definition as it is.
And I don't think that there's any reason why those elements can't exist in the WWE 2K scenario and interpretation of it. I don't see
Well,
why.
like I said, I think they're very, very far from that now.
I think
But
so
what I'm
from a
saying
game
is,
standpoint. Yes.
if people are watching WWE content and they're not watching for the competitive aspect predominantly, then that means that when they create an esport, they have to factor that in order to figure out how they can get as much of that audience watching their stuff. It might be a big number, it might be a small number. It depends on the specifics of the thing. It definitely matters though.
Mm. Yep. I don't agree that you have to know why. That's my thing. You don't have to. Well, I shouldn't say you don't have to know why, because you need to know why so that you can keep doing it. I just don't agree that it has to be heavily slanted in favor of the esports faction.
I
Factor.
didn't say what it had
Yeah,
to be. I just said
yeah,
you had to know.
yeah. Because you got to be
I
able to
said
keep
you
doing
had
it.
to know, and I said it matters. It
Because you got to be
matters
able to
what
keep
the
doing it.
answer is when you find the answer out. And again, as a guy who works in entertainment, I can tell you some of the most money spent is finding out why people are watching.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
mean,
mostly what people
yeah.
care about.
No, I'm not saying you don't need to. Like you need to know so that you can keep doing it. I'm saying it doesn't matter if the audience is more there for the story than they are for the competition. I don't think that matters.
Well, and it matters if your goal is to create programming or if your goal is to create a sport. Because the problem is when people are really into programming and you bring competitiveness into it, that sometimes drives a lot of audience out of it. So, contrary to what you're saying about me being like the esports guy who wants everything to be an esport, no. If something works better as not an esport, I'm all for it moving in that direction.
Okay, they tired of us talking about this
All
WWE.
right, yeah, let's hear playoff talk. He right. He
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I told you he was going to get into this, but you was stubborn. You just
I
wanted to hear it.
I just I
I
had
tried
to.
to let you go. He just
I
had to keep saying something.
no I you
I
know.
tried. I sat here silent, and he was just like, Nelson, got something to say? What you got? You just
Hey,
gonna let it go with that?
I don't want to, I don't want to just control the world. I want the people to participate, even if they're wrong. You know.
I want you to be able to sit here and make up your fantasy programs that's never gonna exist to your heart's content.
Yes, yes.
I think the people like it.
I think they do too, because this world is
But
made, and this world is spun by
but
dreamers.
when people want real information about esports, that's the
Yeah,
benefit
they
of
got to
having
call
me here to
Nelson,
help them
because
out.
when you look up esports in the dictionary, in the Nelsonary, Nelson's sitting there with his shirt off and a chest tattoo that says Overwatch. So that's just what it is. That's just what
You
it
you
is.
rely on jokes when you're beaten. I understand. I like it. I appreciate that
No,
about your
no, no,
personality.
no, no. I just respond to jokes when they are given. You want to talk about each fantasy programs that ain't never going to exist? Say, now that's an apples to apples comparison. So, but so that we don't have a 4-hour show, which is what
Because where are we going right now?
so that we don't have that. I think so. Are we getting into playoff talk right now?
Yeah, we should probably call some matchups, right?
Yeah. Okay. 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 All
Playoffs
right.
super interesting. The way the playoffs have shaken out is actually really, really interesting, and has completely changed the fates of a lot of teams. I think, or the potential fates of a lot of teams.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because when we did this before, some of the matchups have changed since.
Yeah, the playoffs
So
were literally not decided until the last game of the season, which is
right,
crazy.
right. So right about now.
Let's
He
do
got
East first.
yeah, East first. Bucks, Pistons, Bucks in 4.
Yeah.
Um,
Pistons might get one because Blake Griffin is actually playing really, really well, and
yeah,
he might win them a game if his leg is okay.
yeah.
He's got a pretty bad leg injury right now. He's wearing a bionic leg
I'll
out there.
buy.
Have you seen it? Dude, he look like
Yeah,
he wearing a styrofoam cup.
yeah. He looked like somebody went too far with their creative player.
But yeah, I got you. Bucks in five or less.
Okay.
Toronto and Orlando. Now, see, this is interesting because Orlando
Uh-huh.
has been playing
Really
like
good. Yeah,
fantastic
really good.
since like about the All-Star break or something like that. For that reason, Orlando and Brooklyn are interesting because they both started out way worse than where they wound up, like in an abnormal way.
Yeah, yeah. I still think Raptors in 5.
I want to say Raptors in five too, but I want to give Orlando the credit
You should
of
say it.
saying
You should just say
Raptors in six.
it.
I want to, you know what? I want to believe. I want to believe
It's
that they're turning into a good team.
Yeah, I mean, well, they don't have to be a big good team to beat the Orlando Magic in 5. I think if Orlando Magic get first of all, the fact that they're in the playoffs is a huge win for them. Second of all, if they get a game against the Raptors in the playoffs, a 58 win team, I think that's a solid season for them to build on going into next year. So
Yeah,
I think we're definitely giving them their due if they lose in 5. So that's just me.
that's
Um,
fair.
the 76ers against the Nets. I have the Sixers in 7.
That's an interesting one because Joel Embiid's health is really shaky.
Oh,
The
and they can't win without
Sixers,
him.
the Sixers are very top heavy. They've
Hmm.
basically got 5, 6 players,
Hmm.
and I mean Boban's pretty good, but then after that though they're really shallow, and the Nets have a lot of depth at the guard position where the
Hmm.
Sixers are particularly shallow. They got JJ Redick and Jimmy Butler, and that's it basically.
Hmm.
So yeah, and then you got TJ McConnell trying to deal with either D'Angelo Russell or Spencer Dinwiddie or Karis LeVert is like that's interesting because the thing about the Nets for me is they're a knockout punch team where they shoot a lot of threes. They play really hard. They play really really intelligently. So the Sixers, I mean, on paper the Sixers should win in five, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was a long series.
Yeah, I think at 7. The Celtics and the Pacers. I got Celtics in 7. That matchup didn't change. That one was there. I think that might be the only
Yeah,
one that didn't change.
that's the only one that didn't change.
Yeah.
I got Celtics in 6.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think Indiana pushes them, and then Kyrie goes nuts in Game 7. I got the
The
Warriors.
key for the Celtics is Gordon Hayward looks
Oh,
like he's rounding
he
into
is.
health.
He is looking really good.
And credit to this show, we've been supporting Hayward all
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
He's been getting beat down in the media for
Hmm.
having a broken leg last year. I don't know what else he's done wrong to these people,
Yeah.
but he's on the normal trajectory for a guy recovering from a severe leg injury.
Yep.
He's not been disappointing. He doesn't look washed up. He looks like he's getting his legs back.
You know what it is?
And what's that?
It's esports.
You're not a very mature man, Brian.
Oh God, help me! Help me!
Why are you
Oh
so
Lord!
salty? Why are you so salty? You want me to let you redefine esports? I'm not gonna let you do it. All right, let's
Oh
go to
my
the
God!
West Coast.
Okay, you're right. You're right. You know what? That is absolutely correct. I do. I would like you to let me redefine esports. That's what I
Yeah,
would like.
and show it. Don't talk about it. Be about it. You
That,
make a successful esport that looks nothing like any other esport ever, and I'd be like, Brian, you did it.
now, all you got to
Way to
do,
go, LaRusso.
is get me some money, and then I could do it.
Hey, look, man, I'm not here to hand out to you the tools you need to succeed. But as it is, you have to live in the real world, not the one in your head. So that's where
Well,
we are.
see, no, you make the one in your head real. That's what you do.
That's what I'm telling you to do.
All
I ain't
right.
saying you can't do it. I'm just saying do it.
All right.
Then you
I'm
went out
gonna.
here and asked me for money.
I did. Hey, you gotta, you know, you gotta ask.
No, why would I give you money?
Where
I give you no money and I'm still right. If I give you money, maybe I'm wrong. I like where I am.
no, that I
I'm
don't
like,
like
I'm like Israel Adesanya.
that's very selfish. All right, so Golden State against the Clippers.
Yeah, it's Golden
Um,
State in 4.
yes, absolutely, 100%, 100%. We got the Nuggets against the Spurs. I have the Spurs in 7.
So do I. And the funny thing is, it's not because I think the Nuggets are bad. I
Right.
just think this is out of all of the teams they could have gotten from 6 down.
Yep.
This is even I would say 5 down. This is
Hmm.
the last team they wanted to see.
Yeah. And if you think about it like this: one of the Nuggets are the number 2, and the Spurs are the number 7, right? But they're only 6 games apart in the standings.
Right. Which
So
is not that's
we're
match then matchups matter at
right.
that point.
We're not talking about, this is not a normal 2-7. So,
No.
it's not. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
then we got Portland against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, I got the Thunder in 6. Now, if Nurkic hadn't hurt himself, I might have something different. But I can see Steven Adams dominating this series with offensive rebounds and limiting Portland to one shot a lot. Um,
Yeah, I think rebounding could be a serious issue for them. Even though Ennis Cantor is a good rebounder,
yeah,
but
he's just a
he's
bad
a
defender.
terrible defender. Terrible
Horrible.
defender, and he's going to be in the pick and roll with Westbrook and Adams a lot.
Yes.
So here's the thing about OKC. The stories on OKC have been a little weird. First of all, people are talking about they're entering the playoffs off of a downward spiral. They actually won 5 in a row, and they're
5
7-3
games
in
in
their
a row,
last
so
10.
I don't know what people are smoking.
Yeah, and literally, I think every analyst said that today, which is ridiculous. The story has also been that the problem is Westbrook is really up and down. He's been terrible. Actually, Westbrook has been pretty fantastic since the All Star break. Paul George got hurt, and
And how can somebody who's averaged a triple double for the 3rd year in a row be playing horrible?
that's fair question, Brian. But if you his percentages, his shooting
Yeah,
percentages,
but
but
horrible. The
here's the
word
thing though.
horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
before the All Star break, he had a lot of alarming shooting percentages. But after
yeah.
the All Star break, he's been pretty much Westbrook again. His pull up jumper hasn't been as consistent as it was last year and the year before, but his post up game is way better,
Mhm.
and he's been distributing the ball better and
Yeah,
making better decisions overall. And he has some teammates that are hitting better shots.
yeah.
So when
And
it comes to
I was gonna say the last 2 months, he's shooting about 33, 32% from 3-point range, which is about Westbrook.
right, and he's shooting them in clutch moments too.
Yeah, the
So
free throws are still bad though.
the free throws are bad, but they've been up and down rather than just horrible. There's been times where he has come through for them and looked like old Westbrook from the free throw line. So that's a you don't know what you're going to get situation. The thing about it is, in terms of you don't know what you're going to get, is really Paul George. Will he get enough rest to be healthy? Because even when he's played well, he's not playing as well as he was before the All Star break. So like if you watch the games, you can see, okay, he's driving to the basket fine, but his shot is just not the same. He's clearly dealing with some issues in the upper body. So if he's healthy, Portland is at a severe disadvantage. If he's not healthy, then Oklahoma City is going to really feel the fact that they lost Alex Abrinas, because that's another reason that they're not performing as well, because they didn't have shooting to lose, and Alex Abrinas got dismissed for the team for I don't know. I mean, he probably slapped somebody he shouldn't have slapped. I don't know what he did, but
Yeah,
he's off the team, and they now they're relying on Terrence Ferguson to hit shots consistently. And if Paul George ain't hitting shots, they just don't have enough shooting. So they could get shot out of the series if Paul George is not healthy. But if he is healthy, then they should win it in 6.
yeah. I got them winning in 6. I think that I just think that on the inside, I think is where we're gonna see Portland really suffer. And so I think that's it. I mean, Paul's shooting 3-point shooting is down a little bit over the last 2 months, but it's still about 35%, which
I mean,
is
he
I
was
mean
he was up in the high 40s
he
before
was in
that.
the 40s for the middle 2 months of the season. and he's dropped down. But I still think if he's knocking him down at that clip with everything else that he brings, he's still okay.
Well, here's an issue specifically. He goes through periods where when he's cold and Westbrook is on the bench, if he has one of them 4 for 12 nights, that's the run that other teams are making. That's putting OKC in these close games where they're losing by 3 and 4 and 5 points at the end. And so when he was playing well, him and Schroeder on that second unit was like playing another playoff team. But now it's more like playing a bubble playoff team. So he needs to be Paul George when Westbrook sits down. That's the change he has to make. It's not about his overall percentages. He can survive his cold streaks when Westbrook or Schroeder are on the floor hitting shots. But when he's the leader of the team, he can't be my shoulder sucks Paul Pierce. He has to be closer to what he was in the middle of the season to beat Portland, who's going to make shots.
Yeah, I think I feel confident that he'll be okay. I think he'll be fine, based unless he further injures himself. But in the state that he's currently in, I think he'll be okay, and I think they'll be okay. All right, so the last series of the year, I mean the year of the of the Western Conference playoffs is the Houston Rockets against the Utah Jazz. I have the Rockets in 5.
Same here. Man, this is annoying. Our picks are all the same,
I
but
know, I know, I know.
it is what it is. Yeah, Rockets in 5. First of all, I think Houston is very good right now.
Yes,
They're a different team than what we were judging early on. Part of it, to credit to him, is Harden. Harden is one of the best offensive weapons in the history of the NBA,
he is.
and he's really feeling himself right now. Chris Paul has been allowed to round back into shape and become part of that team. They have more depth. Fareed is playing well for them. So they've added to that team, and since Bizdelic has come back, they've been. And then obviously Clint Capella came back a while ago, and he's consistently been doing his thing. So and having Fareed come off I actually think they're better than last year
Hmm.
right now.
Hmm.
I don't think they've been better all year,
Hmm.
but Harden's better. They have Fareed. They have Austin Rivers. Chris Paul's healthy and has had a lot of rest. I think currently they are better than they were last year, and they've also got those scattered bodies around in there too.
Hmm.
Your Gerald Greens and stuff like that. So I think
James
Houston is deep.
James Ennis, yeah.
Ennis, exactly. He'll come pop up and just throw 16 points at you for no reason. So I think they have fixed the we lost Ariza problem.
Hmm.
I think Fareed is a significant addition. So is Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers doesn't always have to be great. Austin Rivers just has to be solid defensively and give, them that extra playmaker,
Yeah,
from time to time. And because Harden and Chris Paul are so usage heavy, they so ball dominant. Um, a little bit of good play from another guy matters a lot. So yeah, I got them at 5,
yeah,
and I think going forward, there's some really interesting matchups because Houston would have to face Golden State in the second round, and Oklahoma City is going to get. They're not going to have to face Houston or Golden State in the second round. So now you're in a situation where it's like, if OKC is at their best, they can wind up in the conference finals, which would be great for them.
yeah. Because I think we're definitely looking at Golden State and Houston in the second round, which is crazy. And
If that doesn't happen, one of those teams messed up real bad. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be Golden State because the Clippers just
yeah,
mathematically cannot beat Golden State
yeah,
unless a series of injuries happens,
yeah.
which obviously none of us want to
But
see.
Oklahoma City and San Antonio is a pretty interesting second round matchup.
I think Oklahoma City beats that team.
I think
Russell
they do
Westbrook
too.
is in a small group of players that Greg Popovich
Can't he,
struggles
he
severe.
can't do nothing with it's
Can't
it's
deal
it's
with him.
it's just it's very similar to what you were talking about with Kobe. He has Popovich seems to struggle with perimeters, attacking, relentlessly attacking perimeter players, and
I
that's
think what it
exactly what
is,
Kobe was.
if Popovich had his full lineup, maybe he'd have a chance because
Yeah, because he had big defenders.
yeah, and they're athletic, right?
Yeah.
Because Popovich usually he likes to have those shooters
Hmm.
and those playmakers at the guard positions, and they tend not to be strong enough for the Kobe's and the Westbrooks of the world.
Yeah.
And the physical dominance of Kobe Bryant over Manu Ginobili was a serious factor.
Hmm.
And Bruce Bowen, as great of a defender as he was, Kobe just figured him out. And Bowen's just not athletic enough to actually stop Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, he's just beating
So
him up. After a while, he's just fouling him. He's just using all your fouls.
yeah, and the same similar thing with Westbrook. Like at this point, I mean, nobody's stopping Westbrook from posting up right now. Like he's the best post up guard in the league. I think Kyrie Irving's in that conversation. Kyrie more from a skill standpoint, Westbrook more from a physical standpoint.
Hmm.
But Westbrook is bodying people down there, and it's a nightmare right now. And I don't think San Antonio could deal with that, particularly when you're throwing Paul George on DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, but
sucks for DeMar.
I think Lonnie Walker is an interesting matchup for Westbrook on the defensive end because Lonnie Walker's 6'5", 205, strong, athletic. I'm whenever I can, I'm giving him a look, trying to do his best against Russell Westbrook.
The
So,
problem I think is experience.
oh, absolutely,
What
and he's not going to get
Westbrook
any
is
calls.
correct. He's not going to get calls. Westbrook, despite his offensive struggle, has a lot of tools. He's got Euro step finishes. He knows how to draw fouls. He knows how to post you up. He does have the pull up, and it's a situation where, and it also his passing. And I think Lonnie Walker, for him to have a good defensive series against Westbrook, I think he just needs more NBA games under his belt.
Yeah, yeah, but he
In the future,
physically,
maybe, but not
yeah,
this year. Maybe not
physically,
next year, but year after
yeah,
that, maybe.
physically though, he'd be the guy who
Dude,
I
I've
look at.
watched Westbrook post up Evan Turner. Like
Yeah,
he don't care right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm
yeah,
watching him post up guys 6'5", 6'6", and he's still coming out. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
so. Yeah, I'm so that would be a very interesting matchup going forward. But
yeah.
they got to get through the first round first, and Portland is not an easy out by any
No,
means.
they're not. But
But
yeah,
that sucks for Portland though, because they drew their worst matchup too.
yeah, they
Which is
did.
that's what's funny is that I think Denver and Portland drew their worst matchup.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely. So yeah, the first round should be interesting. It starts on Saturday, early. The first game is the Sixers and the Nets. I think it's like 1 o'clock Eastern time. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Are you are you are you down with are you adopting the Nets this year?
We mean adopted the Nets.
I mean, because I know the Knicks are your squad.
Yeah, well, the Nets are what I said they were from the beginning.
No,
I'm
I'm talking
from
about
Brooklyn.
are you gonna, is that gonna be
I
your
always root for the Nets. They're a
okay,
hometown team. I'm from Brooklyn,
okay,
right? Like if somebody like where are you from in Chicago?
South Side.
South Side. So if they made a specific South Side Chicago basketball team, you would want them to be a good team, right? Like you would want them to, but they're new. Like of course, you can't
Well,
reconfigure
I'm a little
40 years of
strange.
rooting for them.
I'm a little strange because technically I'm supposed to be a White Sox fan, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a because the White Sox are the South Side team. The White Sox are actually the team that most black people root for. But I don't hate the White Sox, but I'm a Cubs fan.
But
Whenever,
imagine if they created the White Sox this year, like if they
Mhm.
had never existed. They have no history in your
Right,
town,
right,
which isn't
right,
exactly true for the Nets because we got Dr. J and stuff. But I wasn't
yeah,
born then, so
right.
and that was But yeah, no, I root for the. I've always said the Nets have not won my heart yet, but I want them to do that. I can't sit here and lie and be like, oh, I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan now.
Right.
Um, I'm always going to be a Knicks fan. It's not a competition thing. The only New York team I feel the need to root against is the Jets because they're a horrible blight on the sport of football.
Oh wow.
But yeah, they are. I mean, you've seen them.
They got new jerseys, and new jerseys look nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't even want them to be good. I want them to continue to stink because Jets
Wow.
fans are delusional, like Cowboys fans, and they need to learn. Apparently, they don't learn every year, and they have to learn again.
You want it?
But no, the Nets. I would love nothing more than for the Knicks and the Nets to be the best two teams in the league. That'd be great, and I would
That would be amazing for New York.
root for both of them. So yeah, no, I'm pulling for the Nets. I always pull for the Nets. I genuinely like the team right now. Kenny Atkinson is coaching the team well. D'Angelo Russell grows with every dribble. Like literally, if you watch him play, he makes so many smart passes throughout the course of a game. It's unreal. People think of him more as a scorer, but he's a true point guard. And they've got a great group of guys, behind him. Harris and Dinwiddie and Allen, and just great organization right now to root for.
Yeah, I would. I think they are a cool team to kind of follow right now. I would agree. I would agree. See, and I think because I just agree with you, I think that is a perfect place to end the show because
Feels wrong, but let's do
that
it.
that that is, I think it's just a perfect spot. I mean, we didn't do that a lot today. We did not agree a lot. And
Except for every playoff pick and almost every MMA pick.
yep, no, well, we only did two MMA picks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So well, we did all right. You would you like to hug? No?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. No
So
problem.
we'll save it. We'll save it
No
for a
problem.
special
No problem.
occasion.
No
If you
problem.
guys, okay, I'll tell you what. You guys get Zion, hug on me.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. I almost don't want him now.
Either way, you lose.
Whoo! I kill me. I kill me. Mm, mm, mm. All right, everybody. I appreciate you all coming through and staying. If you are one of the 18 that are left here, you guys are fan freaking tastic. You understand me? Do you understand me? You're freaking fantastic. And I'm giving a virtual hug to all 18 of you right now. All right. Well, uh, for Nelson, we would like to say goodbye and we wave. God bless and peace.